something like this, this isn't, like mowing the lawn or, sort of a mundane task. There's nothing mundane about it, actually. It's one of the most amazing connectivity opportunities. Talk a little bit about that. We are going to have a chance to sort of see how it goes. I think we'll be able to entertain questions during the process. We might do it a few times. We're going to film it because it's really hard to it's a lot of moving around, literally, and whatever. So we'll be able to share the video with you, and you can share it with other people who might have been interested in being here today. I wanted to introduce Ron Sherman. Ron, raise your hand. So we've been trying to put together a Shmirah team so that when Pacific View or Harbor Lawn calls us and says we have a mate or a metah and we need 48 hours of Shmirut, right now there's about 6 of us who've been giving our time, and it's not enough. And everybody has families and work obligations, whatever. So we would really love to expand our Shmirah to people who are willing to do this great mitzvah. So if you are, everybody is filling out the form, which I thank you, and we'll send you an email, Ron will, and saying, are you interested in being part of the list of people we can email when there's a Shmirah, or text when there's a Shmirah need, a shomer need. I just want to let you know that's going to be part of today. And Sarah, what else am I missing? I feel like, because Sarah is sort of on the ground floor of helping do things for the community. Is there anything
I think everyone has a sense of Hesed, Shel, Emet, and what the project is now, what the goals are.
For sure. Yeah, and that's what Bruce has been talking about all weekend. Really, that Hesed, Shel, Emet is large. It's really larger than life. It's no other way to describe it.
I meant our Orange County chapter.
Oh, our Orange County. Yeah, that's so good. Well, we'll talk about that. We'll send letters to people just so we can reach out. But okay, I'm gonna. Are you enough done with your meal? Okay. So, Bruce, take it away.
Morning. Well, Shavuot Tov. Intent. Let me start with that. When we go to we walk into the change from thinking about everything, thinking about getting to there, how safe is your drive, and what do I have to make my kids for lunch, and anything else is, and now shift your focus to the holiness of what you're about to do. It's something you either can do or you can't do. If you can't do it, so try and keep your thoughts off of the mundane things. Stay focused on it. It's a process of getting ready. Part of getting ready is roll your sleeves up, take off watches, rings. Watches is pretty obvious, I think, for everybody, because you're going to be working with water that is going to come in contact with a decedent. You don't necessarily want to get it on you. Hopefully they didn't have a terrible disease, but you've got to be careful. Rings, because you don't want them to tear the gloves that you're going to be putting on your hands and expose you that way. So take your rings off and put them in your pocket, in your purse, however you want to do it. But take them off. No jewelry that would potentially cause a problem, expose you to some kind of disease. I never heard of anybody who got a disease of any kind whatsoever involved with doing Tahara. And up until AIDS, I never wore gloves, nor did anybody else. AIDS got us all to go, oh gee, maybe we should be wearing gloves. So we started wearing gloves. But why take chances? Especially there's so many other diseases, newer things out there today. You're always going to wear gloves. So the question comes up, before we started Tahara, you're now dressed. Oh, before I forget, dressed. If you're going to really become involved in this, in the doing of the Tahara, I strongly suggest you go to whatever store carries them, be it Target or Big Five or whatever other store you can think of that carries rain boots that come up almost to your knees. The taller, the better. You want to have your own personal pair that you use for Tahara. It can be the ladies' ones that are made to fit a woman's foot. Generally speaking, have different colors and different. It really doesn't matter. I wear a loose-fitting pair of construction boots. They're black. They come up just below my knees, and they're wonderful. I clean them after a Tahara because I'm going to use them also in crazy rainstorms when I have to go to Shel on Shabbos and walk through flooded streets and everything. They work great. I tuck my pants inside them, and I get to Shel with a raincoat and that, and I am dry. So they're multi-purpose. You're not investing in something you may use once a year. I don't know, in Irvine, do you get much rain? I have these boots in Las Vegas, and we rarely get rain. We're going into the Tahara. You come in with the knowledge that here's the person. Generally speaking, you're either going to find them on the table that you're doing the Tahara, because that's where the mortuary has put them, with a sheet covering them, or they're going to be inside of a body bag. That's a real body bag. It has a dummy inside, so we don't have to worry. Kohanim, you can't even go into the building. But there are things for Kohanim to be doing in the Hevra Kadisha, such as getting a minyan together for the funeral, for the Shiva, setting up chairs at the base level, at the house of the mourners, chairs for the minyan, the mourner's chair that's low, getting things ready, bringing the food in. There's plenty for Kohanim to do. Tahara itself, we go into the Tahara room. In most Tahara rooms, there's a sink. And the one thing I did forget about was buckets, but you're going to go in and you wash, negavasher, you wash your hands. We wash our hands before a Tahara the same way that we do after we leave the restroom. 3 times each hand, back and forth. Starts with the right, then the left, back and forth. 3 times over each hand. There's no bracha. We're washing against tumah. Tumah is spiritual impurity. The Av Tumah, the head of the category of Tumah, is death. But we're washing that our hands should be pure before we start handling this decedent. At the end of the Tahara, when we've left the Tahara room, and we have said, wait a minute, oxymoron time, Taharhu, Taharahi, that you're pure, you're talking spiritually pure, and yet they are the head of the category. It's what we do, because we are purifying them for God. The physical impurity that we think of and deal with is not existent with God once we've done this Tahara. And then we're going to wash again, to wash away what we just dealt with, so we can go back to our normal lives. And now we have the deceased is there. We've washed. There is. My wife thinks I've forgotten about the aprons. You put on, and every place has aprons. Use them, because you don't want to get yourself wet. Some have surgical gowns that will protect you, and if they have them, great. If they're there for you, use them. I personally, I don't like my arms covered. I'll take and wash with some soap at the end of it to wash off whatever might have gotten on my arm. I don't like to be covered. So I wear a simple plastic apron. Tahara is over, I tear it off, throw it away, and then I can wash up outside the Tahara. The finale of the Tahara is putting the person in the casket. There's no easy way. There are different ways. Sometimes you need to have machinery to help. I've done in the past, I've had 3 times where we had literally 1,000-pound gentleman. And the first one, we weren't warned about it, and it was really, forgive me, it was really crappy mortuary. And they did not have, and we had to roll this poor man out into the street and then down a driveway and into their garage in order to be able to casket him. I had 10 men with me, counting myself, in order to be able to do it, because they had no lift of any kind whatsoever. But we figured it out using sheets, and we got him into his casket. But still, you're going to know ahead of time, and the number of people that will have to be present to move a very obese person like that is a lot, because nobody wants to hurt their back. And if necessary, you get the mortuary staff involved in the casketing, because they get to do that more occasionally than we do, thank God. We've got our boots on, we've got an apron on, or a protective surgical gown, and now it's time to move to the person. We didn't do it ahead of time, so we'll just use our imaginations. There is a tefillah to say. I'm in my book with the tefillah here, and I haven't done a Tahara for a year now, so I don't want to rely on my memory. There is a prayer that we say that is introducing this person to God. It's not a bracha. We don't say a bracha anywhere in Tahara. So there's no need for worrying about when do you answer Amen. There's no bracha. It is, I don't want to say loose. You can do a Tahara on anybody. I have been asked and brought a team to do on non-Jews who knew about Tahara from whatever source, whatever reason, and they wanted to have a Tahara, and we were contacted. The first time I asked the Shaila, I asked the question of my road, can I do this? And he said, yeah, why not? There's no bracha, so there's no issue of a bracha levatala, a bracha that has no basis, that is just a waste. So we did. I've had the opportunity to participate in Muslim equivalent of Tahara, and a couple times with Baha'i people that they wanted, and sure, why not? My rabbi told me, just think of it as a practice session. You got in another time to practice and see that you're getting everything done. So, Amen never enters into the Tahara room, because, as I said, you're not going to be saying any brachot. What we say are psukim. We are reading parts of Torah, praising this person. It starts off with a whole praise. This person, the son of, the daughter of, whoever the parents' names. In the Chabad minhag, we do it using the mother's name. Other minhagim use the father's name. Other minhagim can use both names. Whichever way, God knows who you're talking about. The next step of the process is to get the person undressed. In women's Taharas, generally, not always, but generally, most women's groups, the Neteret is always covered, except when you're washing particular body parts, an arm, a leg, yeah.
With regards to the bracha, not bracha, the introduction, the tefillah, that is not done for a non-Jewish Tahara.
You could say, again, these are praises from Mishlei, from Tehillim. They're praises. They are not a bracha. So you can say them for a non-Jew also. He was a wonderful person. Rabbi Levitansky, who was my Rav and answered all these questions, told me, do the Tahara. You're getting practice. I'm not saying everything. I'm not getting the full practice. He learned his Tahara skills in Chicago. I never remember their official name. What I call the Chicago Hevra Kadisha. They have a book out, a pamphlet thing that is available sometimes not. But that's where he learned, and then he spent time in Montreal, which is where his wife is from, and her father was a bucky, an expert in Hevra Kadisha, at least in the Chabad world. And some of the things that I do are based upon answers that Rabbi Levitansky got from his father-in-law. And some of it is controversial, which we will go into, but right now it's not germane. If Rabbi Levitansky told me this is good, I'm fine. I don't need anything better, especially those of you who are familiar with the California Chabad world, Rabbi Reichik. Rabbi Shimon Reichik passed away a couple of years, about a year or so ago. He was my follow-up, the second person that I would ask shilas of. It's been an interesting time for me, losing my mentors. Going back to the Tahara, we're now getting the person undressed, uncovered. Men, we always, and women for that matter, even if you don't completely cover the body with a sheet, there is something that always is covering private area and the face. Never exposed except when either mikveh or tisha kavim. When we're doing that, when we're doing the actual Tahara, then the whole body is exposed. You'll read in the different books that have been put out. I don't believe in Rabbi Epstein's book that he did, but Rabbi Weiss, Rabbi Lamb, they talk about the Tahara that the Tisha Kavim is poured over the person standing up. A lot of the Sforim, that's what, you have extra hands and you stand the body up on some straw, and a couple of guys get up, or women get up on a ladder and pour the buckets of water from the head down. That's rarely done today, primarily because of safety, and also because people just don't know how to do it, and it's a risky thing. So mostly, if doing Tisha Kavim, which is how I was taught, it's on a table, the body's raised. We'll get to that. The body is raised so that as much of the water as possible will be able to get underneath and come in contact. There's probably roughly an even split between the Gedolim of our time, between using a mikveh or pouring Tisha Kavim. And I'm not going to try to remember who says what. Rabbi Epstein goes into a breakdown in his book. It's amazing when you see that kind of thing between the Gedolim, the great sages of our time, that they couldn't agree on which is the proper way. I can tell you that in the Chabad world, the Rebbe it was done in his office, and there's no mikveh in the Rebbe's office. So we come down on the side of Tisha Kavim being poured from the buckets. Again, I'm sorry I forgot buckets, but I'll show you how it's done. It's really not hard. Once you have the person undressed, now you go to Bedika, to inspection, to search. Look over the body. Find what are the problems you may or may not have to deal with. Needles of all different kinds, tubes coming in and out of the body. If you are comfortable with removing them, great. If you're not, great. Many Hevra Kadishas will not remove tubes because they are nervous about subsequent bleeding and other problems that potentially could happen. They leave them in place. The Gedolim of our door, the great sages of our generation, have said, don't worry about it. They are in them, they're part of them. If it's a tube that is just slid in and has nothing holding it in place, and that doesn't exist, then it might be a problem. But if you don't want to remove them, no problem. Just make sure they are secure, that they are not going to accidentally get pulled out. If there's a way to, I don't know, if there's an IV line that's going, the whole thing is there, including the IV bag, you want to shorten it. You don't have to pull the IV out of the arm or the abdomen, wherever it's going into, but you want to shorten that plastic. So the way I do it is I take a couple of hemostats, a couple of clamps, surgical clamps that usually they have, and I'll clamp off the tube at 2 sides, and then I go a third side, but I'll cut it short, and then I'll put another one, and I'll tie a knot in it, and we're good to go. It stops from leakage. There are things that you can use. If you take it out, then you have to close up that entry point on the arm or wherever. There is crazy glue, which is wonderful, and everybody agrees crazy glue. It used to be, some of the Rabbanim said, it has to be crazy glue that was made for a surgeon, that was made to use for living people. It had to be sterile. And eventually they gave that up because, wait a minute, sterility is not what we're dealing with here. So you can go to any store and buy crazy glue of any brand, cyanoacrylate. It's great stuff. Then there is a stuff called Moncel solution, which is, I'm not even going to try to remember what the chemical name is on it. It is a reddish liquid that you put it on the site where the needle went in, and you just hold it there for a minute, and it reacts with the blood and coagulates it, and you have a sealed, basically a sealed thing. If you need, you can add a little bit of crazy glue and push a small piece of cotton on top of it, hold it for 30 to 60 seconds, and 9 times out of 10 you're good to go. Sometimes you have to repeat, but you just have to keep an eye when you do that. It doesn't matter the size of the opening. Yes, sir?
At the end of the day, is it better to remove the tubes, or
The Gedolim say that they are part of it. Personally, I don't like to leave tubes. I want the tubes out, so I learned everything I needed in order to be able to remove them. I was taught by a vascular surgeon how to suture, because if you're going to take some things, you need to suture it, and it can't just be like the morticians will do, where it's just a very rough stitch. They call it a baseball stitch, and it's just very rough. If you're going to take the tubes out, you have to do it not like a plastic surgeon, but like a surgeon would do, so that it looks nice. Again, you know, how, at the end of all of this, how we bury this person, that's how they are going to be standing before God for their personal Day of Atonement. And we want them to look nice. We don't want them going up there with a sheet wrapped around them like they're a Roman wearing their toga. You had a question?
How often do you see that there's this extra fluid or bubbly fluid that leaks out if you remove?
From a tube?
Yeah.
It's generally speaking,
If there's no pumping, there's no.
it doesn't matter. There is blood
Right.
in the veins.
Right.
So if something that goes into a vein, it may be a small amount, relatively speaking, but there's going to be some. And Dam is the home of the soul. So we collect all the Dam. Dam that flows at the time of death is crucial. Afterward, it's important. So we do our best to collect it. Yes, sir? No.
Repeat the question if you would.
The question was, do we check for contact lenses and dentures? I wouldn't, no. We do not remove anything like that. We don't remove artificial limbs, that type of thing, unless they come, well, I take that back, we do. An artificial leg and artificial arm does get removed. It gets buried with the person because it was their replacement. When somebody has an amputation, chas v'shalom, that limb, that body part, should be buried in the place where he eventually will be buried. 20, 30, 50, 100 years, whatever down the road, that leg or arm should be buried and be waiting for him. Eventually, his whole body.
What do they do with the dam when they collect them?
The dam gets buried with the person. We put all those things, cloths, cotton, rag, whatever.
In a
Go-
little bag.
Pardon?
The Taharichim give you a little bag.
We'll get to that.
Oh.
They get put at the feet of the deceased, and that bag is meant to hold straw in it and be a pillow. Yeah, that's it. One step at a time. Yes.
Bandages, especially
Bandages
if they're
that have
really
blood.
on there and the skin looks not great, and you're worried about the skin.
Cloth bandages, material, whatever the gauze is made from, they pose significant problems because when you pour Tisha Kavim, they're going to soak up the water. And now what do you got? So you want to remove all the bandages you can, very carefully. There are times when it in and of itself is going to cause a problem of some bleeding. It can't be helped. There are substances, there are things that they have in the mortuaries, in most of them, that we can use to mitigate it. There is, I call it a paint, it's like a plastic liquid that can be painted in small areas on a wound, given a few minutes to dry, and it will become impervious. It is not enough. There's a halacha called a chatzitza, a blockage, something that gets in the way of something. In this case, we're talking about the Tisha Kavim. It would be in the way. Up to a certain amount, it's not a chatzitza. It's not a blockage for that. It doesn't qualify. Somebody where there's a lot, I mean, like potentially up to 50% of the body is a problem. We do the best we can, and sometimes the best we can is that we're going to lose some blood. We collect everything we possibly can. We get up to the point of Tisha Kavim, and we move as fast as we can to do Tisha Kavim, cover the person with a sheet, and now we've got a very wet sheet or a towel or whatever we're using, that initial to cover the bloody area in particular, and it's going to end up going in the casket. We just have to figure some way, add more straw, add more something to help absorb that liquid, but we collect what we can. I had a cover to do Tahara on somebody who was a friend of mine who was murdered in a store on Sunset Boulevard 15, 20 years ago, something like that. He was shot by the owner, the owner of the store, but he was collecting rents on behalf of his father, who owned the properties. And the coroner's office in LA, the guy shot him twice. The first one was a through and through, pretty much, killed him, went through his heart, and came out his back. But this guy was very nice, use that term loosely, and decided that he needed to put one in his head. And that bullet did not come out. The coroner's office, Baruch Hashem, the coroner's office in Los Angeles was a newer coroner, and there is a rabbi in the La Brea area who interfaced with him, and he agreed they would not do an autopsy, but they needed to retrieve that bullet, and that meant opening up his head, which created problems for the Tahara. I talked my way into the Tahara. It was not my usual teams doing it. The rabbis doing it agreed to let me be part of it, and got stumped when we got to the point of Tisha Kavim. What do we do? How do we do it? And the only solution was I stood there with a towel on his head, and as soon as they were ready to pour, I stepped back with the towel, they poured, and 2 seconds later I was back on. Yes, we lost some blood. No getting away from it. But you make the best you can with the situation. You figure out what you need to do based upon what you're facing. Somebody who has had a full autopsy, there's all kinds of issues to dealing with. But again, these are things that they don't come up often. And Baruch Hashem, there's this device called a cell phone. I'm reachable. You'll be saying, this patient.
What happens with
Okay, good question. Yes, thank you for raising that.
The question
Nail
about-
polish needs to be taken off, but you don't make yourself insane with it. Because I know there are nail polishes, or whatever they are, that you can work from now until Mashiach gets here, which hopefully is now, but until next century, and not get it off. So you try. If it doesn't come off because of whatever they make that stuff out of, that's it. You know, it's part of it.
And then fake nails.
Fake nails, if you can, if they will come off without wrenching them off. We do everything we do. We want to do so that we are not causing pain to the person. You pretend that that person can feel everything, because the reality, as I was taught, is they do. The neshama is right there. If this is the head here, the neshama's here. So that's one reason why we do things from the sides. We try not to stand at the very head, because we don't want to interfere with that neshama. But the neshama's there. It feels what is done to the goof. It knows who's there. It knows what is happening, and it's in a state of confusion. So we want to be careful. One more moment. We're constantly asking mechila because of that. And if you didn't get along with that person, you don't belong in the Tahara room, period. Because now your very presence is upsetting to that neshama, which is the last thing they want to do. They have enough upset going on at that time. So we avoid being in Taharas for people we don't like. There are a couple of Taharas I did not go on, simply because I didn't get along that well with the person, and I didn't want to be the cause of any further upset. Yes?
I take that part so seriously, and it feels like, as a mom of young kids, so similar to caring for a newborn baby. Like they're in transition in a new realm, and you want to be so gentle. And it kills me when I do Tahara that the water we're using is freezing cold. And I'm wondering.
Should be lukewarm.
Oh,
Put a little bit of warmth in.
oh,
Tisha Kavim should be cold. But for rechitza, for cleaning the person, yeah, it should be lukewarm. Tisha Kavim should be cold, because in the best of all worlds, the mikveh would have been from a river, from a fresh spring, which I've been in Israel, and the mikveh there, a bit. It's a wake up. It's a wake up.
You had also shared that the head remains covered along with the personal, private.
Right.
But you do wash
We
the
do
face,
wash that, yeah.
right?
We haven't even gotten to washing it. So
Okay.
far, we're just getting ready for that.
Okay.
So, you talked about dealing with difficulties in the process.
Right.
When you, as kind of the rosh of a team,
Right.
you will. So before the team goes into the room, will you inspect the body to understand the complexities, or where will you learn about the complexities so that way you can prepare for
the
them?
problems by being in the room with the mace, with the metad.
Okay.
We learn about it by seeing. The
Yeah.
mortuary may tell you, oh, they had this, they had that. After you do a few, you learn that somebody coming from a hospital, the odds are good that they've got a couple of tubes.
Yeah.
If they're coming from an ER, the odds are that there might be a lot more than just a couple of tubes. There might be a whole bunch of things. Depending upon the hospital, there are lots of hospitals that their procedures, and they're written in stone, and you can't end up changing them, is that they remove all of the tubes, and it's probably based upon liabilities. If, God forbid, somebody else at the mortuary or wherever ends up getting stuck by a needle, now they're going to get in trouble. So, we live in litigious times, and a lot of things are governed by what the lawyers tell us and don't tell us. But at the end of the day, you want to have all these things. And what you're going to face each time, it's different.
So when you're approaching something, kind of on the more extreme scale, you'll kind of go in, not blind, but you'll go in Like, how do you approach it in terms of a game plan for something more difficult?
There is no specific game plan for the specific person other than the generic, because 98% are all the same. When you run into something new, something different, you step back, the whole team, and you go, okay, how do we deal with this? Trying to remember what the call was. I had a call from...
And that would be in the Tahara room?
In the Tahara room,
Okay.
yeah. I had a call from a team here in LA that as soon as I saw the phone number they were calling from, I knew it was something that was a problem because it was 10 o'clock at night and it was a mortuary telephone number and there's no way mortuary personnel were there still. So when I answered, I anticipated they've got something unusual, and they described it to me, and I said, you know what? Either live camera it or send me a picture. Let me see, because it just wasn't clear what they were telling me. They sent me a picture, and I said, oh, okay, do X, Y, and Z, and you're good to go. And they did, and I erased the picture, and Baruch Hashem, what I told them to do was the right thing. Sometimes you run into situations that for you are new. I have not run into anything new for probably 10 years, since the last time that I had to ask a question, which is, it's nice, but in some ways it's sad because I've dealt with some pretty horrific conditions of bodies. The worst condition I ever dealt with was interestingly worse. It was some bones with flesh. That was a Russian gentleman who had been killed by the Russian mafia in LA and taken up to Northern California. His body was dumped in a small pond or lake, whatever, I forget where they discovered him. And that posed unique because they came a bucket that had all of the things they'd recovered, but couldn't pour the water out that was in there with it because who knew what bits and pieces were floating. So I actually had to double check with how to deal with them. But I mean, there was nothing that could be done, obviously, for the bones and all. But that was the strangest new case. But you don't know what you're going to run into. A lot of the stuff that the EMTs and Shel and everybody over in Israel last year had to deal with on Simchas Torah. Unfortunately, without having been there, I can't swear to it, but that type of stuff I've dealt with. You do it enough, eventually you're going to run into some pretty bad stuff. Yes?
So in the extreme case of the Russian gentleman, are there times when you absolutely simply can't do Tisha B'Av, you can't do Nikia?
Yeah, in the case of somebody who is pretty much falling apart, decomposed, yeah, because you don't want to wash anything away. So we don't. In respect to that, there was a manager at one of the mortuaries in Los Angeles who, for whatever his reasons, he fought with the public administrator for a particular gentleman. The public administrator, this particular guy, he wanted to cremate the person, and the manager didn't want the body to be cremated. And it was a decision that was definitely something that could be fought. It ended up that it went into a court hearing, if I recall correctly, it was 20 years ago. Whatever the case, the manager of the mortuary won, but it was 6 months down the road. And even though the gentleman was under refrigeration, there was no way 6 months that the body is not decomposing. So we unzipped a bag like that one, and it was in a puddle of fluid. Touch him and things were falling off. So there was nothing we could do but put him into the casket, open the bag, throw a lot, you put offer from Eretz Yisrael with every decedent, and it's placed in different places. We normally just use one little bag because you don't need a lot. we used 5 bags on that, spread them all over the place, figuring, more is the merrier in this case. But again, an unusual circumstance, something that highly unlikely that you'll run into, but you never know. You never ever know. From accidents, each one is situational based upon what happened. If an accident happened and they got surgical care, they got this, that, you might not be getting the worst of it, or it might be that it's the body recovered from an accident. You take them as you go. Yes, Rami. Next.
From a Tahara point of view, I'm in the hospital, a person passed away. So often the hospital staff will ask, should we start to know, how much should we remove? From a Tahara point of view, what should we have in the hospital?
The IV lines that are going into the abdomen, into arteries and veins, feeding tubes, anything that is going into the abdomen for medications should be left, preferably. If they can clamp it, tie it off, so that it's a shorter piece, that's great. But that's something that can be done by the Tahara team at the time of Tahara. Removing things that have to do with the intestines, with fecal matter. If the hospital can take it out, great. And put something, whatever it might be, just to keep it all contained at that location, great. Everything else, better if the Tahara team does it. But again, as I said, there are some hospital setups now that, because medicine is now in the hands of corporate offices and insurances and everything, we don't necessarily have anything to say about it. They say, well, this is our procedure. It's like the procedures at Pacific View and Harbor Lawn, they are set from a corporate level. They can only bend just so much. That's what it is. This gentleman was...
Go ahead.
Couple of questions. First one, when you say like crazy glue or sutures or whatever, are those usually available in?
Mostly it's available, yeah.
And then what, you kind of like touched on this a little bit, but any openings that are still there, not ones that you make by removing a tube, but if it's wound of some kind or surgical incision or
And you have to
pressure
evaluate
ulcer
it.
or even like an ostomy, like what
You have to evaluate it. Some you can do something, some you can't. Some are harder, some are easier.
is the ideal that all of these are closed?
The ideal is everything is closed, especially when you're going to pour. I mean, an ostomy, you're about to pour. I will not remove that bag. I did it one time, and it was a big mistake. So I leave it. It's attached to him. It's part of him, and I go with that view that it's part of him. It's not necessary to remove it. Ostomies are. I've heard from others who they make it a matter of their system that they remove them, and so far they tell me they've never had an issue. I just needed the one issue, one time. I won't ever face that again. So I advise to leave ostomy bags in place.
But if there's like, I don't know, pressure ulcer or just like a stab wound, like anything that's open.
Anything that has gauze covering it, you want to remove the gauze. Okay, because otherwise it's just gonna, it's like a towel soaking up water, and you're gonna have to deal with that, and it's not gonna cure whatever might be going on underneath that bandage. Maybe it's healed up. I get nervous and I remove them, but I'm always, it's like, am I doing the right thing? But at the end of the day, yeah, it's the right thing because of what otherwise could be. And it doesn't necessarily make things easier, but sometimes you take away the gauze, take away the rubber pad, the cushions that they use to hopefully prevent bed sores, and you go, oh, there's nothing. So it's a call. I know one person who leave them, don't touch them because you're not sure what's under there. I figured, if there's a way to deal with everything that you expose, it's just a question of, do we have to, or is it going to be fairly simple?
So I want to sort of be able to sort of move on to the next sort of hands-on piece of
Yes.
this. And what I wanted to show everybody is that when you, if you're part of the team, you will have been left either this that says lady or this that says man. And in here is every piece of the tafrichim that you'll need. And now in that bag, the last time we did a workshop, we saved the tafrichim. So I'm hoping to return these to Pacific View so they can use them. But you set out everything, and you'll okay.
Getting there, yes.
That's next stage 2.
Yeah, I can answer questions as we're going through the actual process, because everybody's going to need to be trying to gather around as best you can to see. My dummy was made for me. I didn't ask for it, but it was a gift. I am doing Tahara for also a very, very long time. Very much into sewing. She weaves her own materials. This is how you're going to get it.
You want us to get up?
And if you can see better, then yeah, gather around, please. And according to this young lady, this is Maisie Totek. This is this is a real body bag. They do come thicker for contagious cases, for violent deaths. Okay, here's Maisie. When you open the bag, generally speaking, the body is going to be dressed in something. Be it a hospital gown, be it their own clothing, depending upon where they're coming from. And you're going to take... No, that's okay. You're going to take a pair of scissors. I'm not going to cut this material, but just cut everything off. In the case of a woman, you'll have a sheet that is there, generally, not everybody does, to cover the body as you go. With men, we put a piece of cloth over the bris and over the face, big enough to completely cover and not worry that it's going to go slipping. So, I don't know, 12 by 12, 14 by 14. We don't try and make it accurate. We just cut what we think is the right size and put it on there. They're not going to be wearing it. It is just meant for modesty.
I'm sorry, at what point do you do that?
As we cut, when we get to the point where we're uncovering the person,
As you're
we
uncovering, you
want
sort of lay it along as you cut.
Yeah, well, not as I cut, but as I remove. If I cut, if you were, God forbid, you're the person laying, okay? I'm going to take my shears and I'm going to cut your pants up. I'm going to cut your shirt down the sleeves, down the middle, down the chest. Just cut everything open so that we can expose. Once we're ready to expose the body after cutting everything, then as I pull the pants away, I'm going to put the piece of cloth there, and I'm going to cut. Well, the face I will have already covered. That's initial. The face is, generally speaking, not wearing it. I take that back. Ladies, you got probably makeup on, but we don't worry about that until further. That's part of rechitza. Rechitza involves if somebody's wearing makeup. Nail polish can be on men sometimes. It's not uncommon.
Earrings and piercings.
Right. Removing jewelry from the decedent, we remove jewelry. We put it aside, and eventually we put it in places I've been to. We will put it in an envelope, or we'll put it in a paper towel that we fold, and then I'll try to staple it and tape it, whatever, and leave a note on it on top of the casket that this is whatever it is, and return to the family. And that's a note for the mortuary, for their staff, that they should know, okay, these things are here. And I'll take pictures of that kind of thing. and the fact that I've wrapped it up, and I'll have it in my phone that if anybody comes along, and it's happened, that people come along and they'll say, well, what happened? There was no, the earring, the ring, the this, that, the other. I go, well, you know what? I don't know. Ask them. Here's my photographic evidence of what we did, how we did. And when I left at whatever hour it was, I'm trackable because these places have alarm systems that you have to disarm. Not everywhere, but most of them do have an alarm, and it's tracked. So today in particular, that kind of thing is harder for somebody to accuse you of stealing something unless you actually did, which I can't say hasn't happened, never happened with my guys, the ladies that I've worked with, but it's a big world.
Why would you do a mitzvah and then steal?
Well, you'd have to ask those people. I can't really answer for anybody else. The rechitza starts once you have the clothing off, and we've got them exposed. In order to know what's going on the back, you take an arm, and everything starts with the right side. So we take the right arm, put it up over the chest, put your left hand on the hip, the right hand on the shoulder, and roll them up. And how do you roll them up? Not like I just did, where I'm using my arms. Your legs go against the table at whatever height it is, and then straight arm and lean back. You let physics work with you. It's a fulcrum, right? It's so much easier. You can move double your weight very easily. We have moved up to 600 pounds. It's just two guys. One lighter weight, just one person can do it. A heavier weight person, you're going to have two people. A second person with the right hand on the hip over the other one and controlling the leg. We don't cross the legs. I've never seen a reason for it. I just know that every Tahara manual I've read, everywhere I've learned, it says don't cross the legs. There are some who teach that's how to do it because it's easier to roll a person. I will reiterate that there are different minhagim. I said it the other night, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't really recall, but I have done Tahara with Persian, Moroccan, other Syrian, other Sephardic groups, where I was nothing more than another set of hands for them. And we're doing the same Tahara. The same rolling, the same pretty much everything. And yet they had slightly different minhagim when it came to various parts. Do the left hand starting with the pinky, and the right hand start with the thumb. I have no idea. And I don't see an issue. It doesn't matter. Again, to me, it's a proof that what we do and how we do goes back to Avraham Avinu, as Rabbi Levitansky told me. We're going to roll the person right side up, the two people on that side, and that's another thing. 4 people is the best. 2 on that, 2 on the left. You're going to look and see what's going on the back. Are there any problems that we have to deal with? Be it bandages, be it a scrape, be it whatever. This is when you find out. Check the right side. Now, those people roll up the left side, and we do the inspection from this side. The Bika inspection. Now we know what we're dealing with. If we have to pull needles out, suture something up, this is the time when we're going to do it, before we get into the washing. The washing itself, everything starts at the head. Right side, left side, face, top of the head, neck. And then we're going to move down
Sorry, in that order?
in that order. If you do a different order, it ain't the end of the world. Again, I am teaching you how I was taught. It's not the only method. There are those who say that you have 2 people at the head. I was taught one person does everything on the head. Okay? There are those that say 2 people. One's on the right side, one's on the left side. That doesn't make that minhag less than my minhag. It's how I was taught. most of what has been taught over the centuries was handed down verbally in the Hevra Kadisha. You were invited to join, you became part of it, and you learned what you needed to learn by being present at a Tahara, by being part of it and doing it. And if you had questions, you held them and you asked them at the end of it. What do you do with somebody, God forbid, who is a suicide? We didn't even talk about that. You know what? They get a Tahara. They get buried the same as everybody else. They get tachrichim. They're treated like a Jew, period. Their mind, the Rambam, first time I had a suicide to deal with, I didn't know what we do, what we should do, shouldn't do. So I picked up the phone and I couldn't reach Rabbi Levitansky, but I reached Rabbi Reichik. And I said, okay, what do I do? And he said, hang on, I got to check something. And he put the phone down, and 5 minutes later he picked it back up and he says, okay, do a Tahara, everything. No change, nothing different. And I went, okay. And he said, I forget how many document it was that he said that the Rambam deals with it. And at the end of it he says, but you know what? This person was not in control of their mind. And somebody who was mentally ill, you don't hold them liable for things because they're out of their mind. They're not thinking straight. So we do a Tahara because if the person had been thinking straight, they wouldn't have taken their life, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu would not have agreed with it. So they get to have a Tahara. They get treated the same as all of us. This includes, I mean, there are those who say you have to bury somebody like that only on the outside of the cemetery, over by the gate, outside. And according to everything I've read, that's nonsense. But a lot of people believe it. So you go with what you have. I teach the way I was taught. And if it differs from somebody else, so be it. I know it differs from others. I can think of a couple of things that I'll bring up in a little bit. But we start with the head. Now we're going to go down right side and left side. Once the right arm is started, the left can start. You don't have to wait even 2 seconds. The moment the arm is picked up and start over here. Yes?
Do you use soaps or it's just water?
What do you mean by tools?
Soap.
Oh, soap. I'm sorry. Soap as needed. Most of the time, you get people who have come out of a hospital or their own homes, they've been sick, and they're clean. They've been bathed by a nurse, by whoever, on an ongoing basis. So, soap as it's needed. But, I mean, there are some chevras that they just pour soap and everything is soap. I was taught only as needed. So we avoid using soap until we find, we need some soap.
Are there washcloths there? Like what is being
We
used?
use a piece of a sheet. It's a softer material. Washcloths are rough, and you're going to, not potentially, but probably, you're going to rub skin off. And we don't want to do that. So we cut up pieces of sheet to use. And it's a smooth material. Unless you apply really a lot of pressure, you're not going to be able to rub skin off. Washcloths, towels, that kind of thing, they're rough, and therefore, I say, to be avoided.
And I wanted to share with you that what I would, I have a basket that somebody made for me of everything you would need, like small, soft cloths, like light soap, everything in case the mortuary doesn't have her, you're somewhere where you need it. And what they made it for me, 3 buckets. I have like my kit. But what I'm saying is we'll make kits for anyone so that your leaders would have everything they need in the car, including extra towels, and that way you're sort of like in case the mortuary doesn't have it, you have it. And that's the service we want to just make sure, because sometimes you can go like, oh my God, we don't have enough towels or something, and it becomes problematic.
Okay.
If
That's
it comes to
nothing.
makeup and stuff,
Makeup,
Right, you take
use
it off, the
whatever
makeup
they have,
remover.
chemical stuff, things that are for doing that. I don't know the name of them because I don't.
I don't use it.
I
It's
haven't
about
run into-
shampoo.
Pardon?
Shampoo.
No.
Shampoo you may need for the hair. But again, it's like
Something
soap.
that's gentle.
If you need to use shampoo in the mortuary, all these places have these supplies, including really they do have towels and sheets and everything. And the first thing I do is I go, Pacific View in particular, Pacific View does its own laundry. So I will go to the closet where they do the laundry. If we haven't had, I had a bucket. I left it with others, but I had a bucket similar in size to the thing that toe tag was in. And I had in there buckets, I had sheets, I had pretty much everything I needed to be able to go anywhere to do a Tahara, because we went to name a mortuary out here in Orange County or Riverside or whatever that is not normally what you would associate with Jewish clientele, and we probably were there at least once or twice. And that's why my travel box. We could go any place. Yes, sir.
Is that typical at the mortuary? There's not a specific Tahara room
Most
Place.
mortuaries do not have a separate Tahara room unless they are a Jewish mortuary, in which case maybe they do, maybe they don't. Malino and Silverman does not get a call for a lot of Taharas.
Then
They
does
don't
body
have
get
a
moved?
separate room for Tahara. They have the room where the bodies are prepared is called a prep room. Very good term, right? But it's used for the embalming, for everything. When there's going to be a Tahara, they pull
Move
everything
it
out
around.
and we go in and do a Tahara in the regular prep room. Pacific View supposedly made a Tahara room. I haven't seen it, so I don't know that it happened. I actually stopped. Did they? They now have a separate Tahara room?
I think it's separate. We've done Tahara there.
How many tables are in there?
One.
Are you talking about Harbor Lawn?
No,
Harbor
no,
Lawn?
no, no, Pacific View.
They
No,
just
Pacific.
built one, and I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I've heard that they built it. I want to see it. I refused. We stopped going there because they made the ladies go into a side room, not the main prep room. Me and my guys, they allowed us because we knew this ladies group that went there. They also have been there for years and years, and they refused to let them use the actual prep room. So they had a side room that was a visitation room, no floor drainage, no water in there whatsoever. They had to fill up 5-gallon Sparklets bottles and bring them in and do the Taharas. And I thought, fine. And I said, that's it. We're not coming to you anymore. So they started bringing the cases, the bodies that families wanted a Tahara, they started bringing them to Harbor Lawn. Harbor Lawn has a separate room. And it's wonderful. But I put my foot down. You're not going to let us. They were the only ones allowed in the prep room was my med students, not the Muslims, not the Baha'is, not who also do a similar kind of thing for Tahara. And they said no, they have to go. That's it. You know, you treat everybody equally, and you let everybody in the room properly. Then great. We'll start letting people come back there. But otherwise, forget it.
We always had to go in at like 11:30 at night.
Yeah,
and then
after
they
they
just
have
moved,
finished
and then
all
they
of their
just
stuff.
moved the other bodies and made a place for us.
This is in South Africa.
Yeah, no. I don't
no,
like
yeah,
Pacific View.
at Pacific View.
Well,
Yeah.
I
I'm talking
think,
28 years
Upon
ago that I
Mortuary
did it.
And Heritage Memorial used to have their Tahara room. They would have a separate room. But coming back to your question,
Yes.
if someone dies in an accident and
Right.
there's not a lot of cleanup, but say there's blood that's matted in the hair, do you wash it or you just
No, you
leave it?
leave it, and you cover the head with automobile accident. You would leave the head exposed, but somebody's standing there. The instant Tisha Kavim is started and the head is done, catch with a towel and stomp, and that towel gets buried with the person. And I can speak of it. I had to think for a moment. I was asked. I wasn't part of the Tahara, but I was asked to identify somebody who I'd known since she was a very, very dear family friend who was killed in a head-on car crash on the 395 going up with her two boys years ago for a camping trip with them. And some drunk person crossed over the center head-on. Thank God the boys didn't get badly hurt. But that was the first time that I had to actually find out for the Tahara team how to handle the blood. I mean, that was with a lot of other stuff involved. But yes, we do it. There are times, and coroner's autopsies are the worst because they make it really, you almost cannot do anything. But if you're able to pour Tisha K'av, and we want to pour Tisha K'av, we want to save as much of the dam as possible, including to the extent of if it's only going to be a small amount of the Tisha K'av, where you're going to be very accurate, that's all it's going to be. I wasn't part of it, but I was told about a Tahara where they took towels and sheets and blocked the drainage around the mesa so that they collected every drop of water or whatever dam was picked up with the Tisha K'av, and they were able to put it in the casket. So dam is extremely important to save. We're at the point now where this person is exposed and ready for washing. Again, we did the head. We start down the right side, and immediately the left side is done. It starts with, some people start with the torso and then the arm. I was taught arm, then torso. I don't know that it makes a difference. Yes?
You said head first.
The head is, I explained the head. We start with the head, the right side, the left side, then top of the head, and the neck.
And how do you do the back once you've gone down the front?
Once we've gotten done with the torso, with the face, what we can see, what is exposed to us, including the legs, we roll. Take the right arm, right side first. Roll the person up. Somebody washes the back. Excuse me.
But you don't
To
drop
hurt
the
you.
arms.
Very floppy. From the left side, the last area that gets cleaned is the panini, is the anal area. That is the final place that gets cleaned, and it's cleaned from the left side. And it's cleaned to the extent of making sure there is no schmutz coming out at all. Which means sometimes you'll take a piece of cloth and run your finger a little bit inside, just a little. If you break the tightness of, hopefully, of the sphincter muscle, you may end up with more problems than you wish you had ever seen. If you're sending a body to Israel, now you're going to clean a little more internally with an enema. You're not going to get totally everything, not as if you were going for a colonoscopy, not that determined of a cleaning, but it is meant to be clean. We do not send schmutz to Eretz Yisrael to be buried. And the Hevra Kadishas there will get really upset if they have to do another Tahara because you didn't clean well. So we're more careful. Same thing, yes.
Is rigor mortis a problem at this point?
It is.
It's not generally a problem. I mean, there could be a rigor mortis, there might not be, but it generally doesn't pose any problems. Sometimes an arm is in a bent position, and it'll take a little bit of work to ease it down, but we don't force it to the extent that we might tear muscle tissue and create pain for the person. We'll gently try and push it down. Sometimes you get somebody who's been in a comatose situation for who knows how long, and their legs are pulled up to them, and you're not going to do anything to change them. Where that poses a problem is when you want to casket them. Sometimes a leg is up, and there's just getting that leg to be in a position that you're able to close the lid on the casket. That can be a problem. The Tahara itself, I never had rigor mortis that posed a problem for us doing a Tahara.
Does rigor mortis pass after time?
Yeah.
I'm not
After a
familiar.
time, yeah, it's not permanent. It's not permanent. You might get lucky and,
24 hours.
sometimes 24 hours, sometimes long. I mean, it's so many different factors. I could tell you one thing today, and tomorrow you'll go and you'll be part of it, and it'll be totally different. So it's one of those things like different issues of a cut or other kind of wound that you might have to deal with. Each time it's a little different. There's no set anything. Just as we all look different, the same thing on the Tahara table. Every case is different. I hope when my time comes that I have no issues going on with me that anybody has to deal with. That will be straightforward, but who knows? Who knows? Okay, we've cleaned her internally. To wash a woman, you're going to make sure that there's no dam of a menstrual cycle going on, and now we're ready for Tisha Kavim. Tisha Kavim. Oh, and we clean fingernails and toenails. Forgot about that. Toothpicks, flat sandwich picks. That's after we've done all the other cleaning. We'll go to the fingernails and the toenails. So I use sandwich picks. They have a point at one end that's not real heavy-duty sharp point, like your usual toothpick that you stab into a piece of gefilte fish or a pickled herring, or something like that. But it's a longer toothpick, and it has at one end it's flat and rounded, and that end is what I use to go underneath the nails because it's less likely to tear skin. The pointed end is very likely going to tear skin. With practice, with care, you can clean under the nails with them when necessary, with the pointed end. But in general, you use the flat end simply because it's less likely to create a problem. Everything we do, you have to try and have in mind, is this going to create another issue? Is this going to create some other kind of problem? We start, again, right, left, start with the pinky, move up to the thumb, or go the opposite direction. And at the same time, the hands are being done if you have 4 people. So somebody starts right foot, somebody starts left foot, get the toes done as well. All of that is done. We take the washing cup, cart, and we pour it 3 times. Over the right hand, over the left hand, over the right foot, the left foot. We haven't even done Tisha Kavim yet, but we're signifying that we are spiritually purifying those hands from whatever we got out from under the nails, which may be something, which may be nothing. Somebody who did a lot of auto mechanics, you may find that there's grease and it's not coming off. If somebody spent a lifetime working with those things, it's probably in their skin, and forget it. You can try, but it's unlikely. You use soap, you can use this stuff called dry wash, which is, can't think of the name of it's a paint thinner stuff. But whatever the case, in the mortuaries they have it, it's called dry wash. It's used for washing hair. It does a great job of removing the gum from bandages and removing a lot of other stuff, but even it cannot get off the grease that sometimes you find from an auto mechanic. We're ready to do Tisha Kavim. We need to raise the body.
The washing, it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
No, I'm sorry. When we do that, no. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
The feet also.
The feet also we wash. We start with the right. Everything starts with the right. Even when we're going to do Tisha Kavim, even if we were standing the person up to do it would still be a bucket on his or her right side first. And the moment that one starts, you can start the left side, second bucket. I start that way because that way we're sure to get. And then the third bucket, I do it down the right side with it, others do it down the left side. Doesn't matter. Water's going to end up getting everywhere, but where you start.
You have to lift the body.
We haven't elevated the body yet. That's correct. Okay, so we have to elevate the body, get it off the table that it's been on. With somebody, everybody in this room, no problem. We're going to be able to get you elevated. God forbid it shouldn't happen, but we're going to get you elevated. There are 2 different ways, maybe 3 different ways that it's done. In Cleveland, I joined a Tahara there when I was visiting my kids once, and they actually have a lattice work board that the whole Tahara is done on. So it was a matter of roll the body up and pour some Tahara water on the board, that is going to have the body touching it, and do that both sides. You're going to put, the way we do it here and most everywhere, is either 2 or 3 boards. 2 boards is if you're going to put them down the length of the body, one on the left side, one on the right side. The way we were taught, the way I was taught, was 3 boards: shoulders, hips, and ankles, or heels. And those boards get Tahara water put on them because parts of the body are going to be in contact, and they are not going to get when we pour the buckets. We make sure that we're using, not just that we say Tahara water and go to the sink and get what we take from the buckets we have already poured and made ready for the Tahara. We take from that with a cart and we wet those boards. Then we'll put underneath the shoulders at about nipple height, because that way it supports the arms and keeps everything up. At the hips, which will then support at the wrists and at the ankle or at the heels. I prefer doing it at the heels. Others put it under the ankle. It's really doesn't matter. I just think that it's more comfortable for the body.
So these part of your kit, these boards, 2x4s, what are they?
They are 2x4s, finished or unfinished, preferably finished, simply because that's a more sanitary thing. They are at most of the mortuaries. Have them there rather than having to schlep them around. I had boards that I could take when I went to a mortuary that we never were at. So I had, as part of the travel kit, there were 3 boards. It's good to have at the location that you're regularly going. If you're going to end up going to other places potentially, then you put together a travel box that has everything you need. That you just grab it and you're able to go. You don't have to think, is this there, is that there? It's all together in one place. It took a corner of my patio, and it was never in the way of anything, so it was a simple thing. When I needed it, I went out, got it, brought it into the car, and on the way. The moment you know about you going to someplace else, put it in your car, unless it's going to be in the way for the day or so. You had a question?
No, I was going to say that. One of the things that when we prepare these travel boxes so that different people who want to do this can have them, you'll help me make that list.
Future.
But all the mortuaries have those boards. That's the Harbor Lawn and Pacific River boards.
And the fact is that every mortuary has boards that are minimal, that are plastic, that they elevate parts of the body when they're doing a embalming, and they're going to be draining, unfortunately, the blood out of the body, and whatever else they do. They have boards, not necessarily that reach all the way across, but they have individually. And if you don't have, you make do with what they have. You make them work. I like the way we do it because more of the back is going to get done. Plain and simple. When the boards are just down the length, depending upon how the person, these are very, very floppy stomach there. But that means the back also, that the skin is drooping down, generally speaking. And that's going to block the flow and create a problem. We get more flow. I actually had somebody paying attention a couple of times. Brought them along just to watch the Tisha Kavim, to sit there and see how the water flowed, so that I could be sure that I was doing things in the best possible way. And we found that's, from our standpoint, that's the best way. Others say no, it's better than whichever way. They're both kosher. Yeah.
Does it have to be wood?
Does it have to be what? Wood?
Does it have to be
No, it's wood is preferred, but if you don't have wood, if you use the plastic, I've used the plastic in mortuaries many times. Many times. As a matter of fact, Mount Sinai wants us to use plastic ones that they provide because they feel it's more sanitary. And okay, fine. It's not an issue worth getting crazy about. It's not worth making a war or getting it. Yeah, this is what you want, great. We need their cooperation as much as they need us. They recently remodeled their prep room, and they built a beautiful Tahara room. Just an amazing Tahara room. But there are times, like last night, there were 2 ladies Taharas and there were 3 men's, and only one team can be in the Tahara room at a time, so they gave over the regular prep room for, I don't know who used which, but both teams were able to be there and get their Taharas done by virtue of them letting the main prep room be used. They had a separate room area for dressing and doing all of that stuff for their cases. So it didn't stop them from doing the little bit they had to do, but it enabled the Tahara people to be able to get things done in a timely fashion. A Tahara, when you're new at it, is going to take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours. It really depends upon what you run into with the person. A clean case, somebody where there's no issues, that includes even if there's an IV line or something. Those go quick. If there are no real issues that have to be dealt with, even in the beginning stages, an hour should be sufficient. It's good to sit down and review the steps. By the way, Epstein, in his Sefer, does a wonderful job of putting out how a Tahara should go, but it's something you should review it ahead of time, know in your head, not to be there with a body or anything, but just to know, oh, first I'm doing this, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing that. It makes it go easier. The more you do it, the better you get at it, plain and simple. There's no getting away from. Practice makes perfect. There are those who teach how to do this by virtue of having one person lay on a table and 4 people gather around and they go through the steps. Obviously, they're not undressing a person as we're talking to living people, but I have real problems with that. That's a Marasayan that an evil eye, a look that I don't want anybody living on a table pretending that they're dead and being the dummy. There is enough opportunity to get the practice in when the real cases come up. Read and read and read. The more times you read over, the more likely that it's going to flow easier for you. The first one is difficult. If you need to have somebody, the prayers, tefillah, the very first one everybody should say. Ana Hashem. Answers God. Here we go. Here's Maisie, toe tag. Everybody should say that first one. After that, one person needs to say. So if it's more comfortable to have one person who is there specifically and only just to read the tefillah, great. Because they can be reading while everybody is doing. There are things to say when you're washing the head, when you're washing the arms. Yadav good is other ways. Each step, there's something. Instead of 4 people going over to a book, or if you have it laminated and you put it up on the wall, and everybody's reading at their pace, one person, designated prayer sayer. That's their job. I want to take the opportunity to practice showing you how to do knots. There's probably 3 or 4 different ways of doing knots. They end up either with a shin in the bow. We're making bows with the knots. I shouldn't say knots. We're making bows. In the Chabad world, and I'm not sure about whoever all else might do the same thing, we make 3 bows. We make a shin everywhere we go. The ankles, the waist, the neck for the shirt. The waist is the pants closing. Neck is the shirt closing. And then the kittel. Everybody, men and women, everybody gets the same kittel. Everybody gets the same shirt. So 4 different bows. We're going to make shins. we're careful to make it that the longer end left over from the material is on the left side as you're looking at the bows. If these are the bows going up, I want this side, on the right side, I want the longer tag end, if you will, that's left from the material. Only when we do the gartel, the belt, the avnet, do we do it the other way. We have the longer end here and the shorter end over here. We make a shin, we make a daled, we make a yud. One of God's names. That's the only place we do that. Others do only 2 bows, so they don't run into that. It doesn't matter which side has which. Again, I know it's not just Chabad, but obviously I'm most familiar with Chabad, that we do 3. And it's a shin, and at the end, when we do the avnet, the gartel, the belt, everywhere else, the longer end left is on the right side, and a shorter piece on the left. All right, shin. Yeah. We do the longer end, the daled, and a yud, so that we are spelling out that particular name of a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Could you go over what the pieces of
I'm
the...
going to
oh,
do
okay.
that. So, we've got the person dry, and we're going to dress them. Everybody, men, women, we all get dressed the same way. It used to be that we couldn't afford the fancy clothing and caskets and everything else that the wealthier were getting their decedents dressed in. So poorer people left their deceased on the street. They'd bring them out quickly at night in the middle of and run away and leave them for the community to deal with. So along comes Rabban Gamliel in the time. And he says, unacceptable. Everybody's going the same way. And he changed it to what we have today. Tafrichem, a plain pine box, and burial in the ground. Burial in the ground was always in the ancient times. But fancy ornate caskets, I mean, you could spend your life's earnings to give honor, supposedly give honor to your father, your mother, to whoever you were doing it for. Today, the proper thing is tachrichem, pine box, and in the ground. Tachrichem are a pair of pants. Where are they?
I think these are pants.
Okay, a pair of pants. It's interesting. In the day of Rabban Gamliel, cotton was a very expensive material. Today, linen is the very expensive material and the preferred material. These are a cotton material. It's not cotton that you would otherwise want to wear.
Bruce, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Do you want to go through about the pouring first before we do the clothing?
Did we? Oh, I'm sorry. Right, we didn't pour the buckets. I apologize. We've got the person elevated on the boards, and we didn't dry this poor guy. The buckets are going to be poured right, left, right. You know what? Thank you. We start at the head, and we go to the toes. One fell swoop, getting it down. If you're fortunate enough to be in a Tahara room that you can pour it all in one swoosh, that's great. Most of them, it's problematic to do it, so you're going to do it a little bit slower so that the water is contained a little bit at least. Otherwise, you have a mess that you have to clean up. We've poured 1, 2, 3 buckets. We say, after pouring the last one, we say Taharhu or Tahorahi, depending if you're doing a man or a woman. They are pure. Again, back to what I first said. It's like an oxymoron. Here is Av Tuma. It's the head of the category of Tuma, of spiritual impurity, and we're saying it's Tahar. But it's what we do. Yes?
So my question is, so as I understand it, so like, there's 3 buckets and 3 people are holding the buckets.
Right.
They're
Yeah, like a.
like a bucket this size.
I don't know.
Anyway, and
Okay, a bucket will work.
and the thing is, what I was told is that there should be no Hesed, no interruption. So
Right.
as bucket number 1's coming down, while there's still water in bucket number 1, bucket number 2 starts pouring
From the head.
from, all from,
Everything from the head.
so every bucket does the whole body?
Everything from the head.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so.
And we
okay, so
pour
I'll let-
backhanded.
I'll let Bruce show.
Okay? We want to pour over the back of the hand. So one hand is going to hold the bucket in a position like that. If it's a shorter bucket, and you have a problem that the handle may be flopping, so have your hand controlling that over the back of your hand, right? This is over the back of my hand. This hand, left hand, is providing support. If you were a righty, so you would switch what's doing what. It doesn't matter whether you pour over your right or your left. What matters is that it's over the back of your hand. Start at the head and come down the body. The moment the first bucket gets to the middle of the abdomen, the second bucket starts on the other side, from the head. Down the left leg, the right side is going down the right leg.
And there'll be enough.
And the third bucket,
And there'll be enough in the
Oh,
body
yeah.
to
I mean,
the whole body.
the first time you may have to refill it. you may not get the
Are we
sequence
lifting the
in
body at
front.
all to get the back?
No, we have it on the boards. That's why we put it up on the boards. When you start from here, it's going to get under there, it's going to be splashing. As it comes down the side, it's going to be splashing. As I said, I had somebody that paid attention. It was the only reason I had them along was when we poured the Tisha Kaveh, that you should be watching to see how the water moves. Again, your right hand or left hand is holding the bucket that you're pouring over that hand, okay? And the other hand is controlled, just so you don't drop the bucket. Even if it's a 3-gallon bucket,
And
a shorter one.
does the third bucket go down the middle?
The third bucket can go over the head and down the middle and then down the right or left leg. Doesn't matter, it goes down one of them as opposed to down the middle between the legs, because then you're not pouring on the legs.
Then you're wasting water.
Right,
Yeah.
and you have to go back.
Do you need to be catching that water?
No, no.
Is it a
No.
set amount of water?
It is, it's supposed to be Tisha Kaveh, and the Kav is roughly in the neighborhood of a quart, so we have a lot of overkill. A lot of overkill.
And you need to have 3 buckets for 3 buckets?
It has to be 3 containers.
Containers
So,
of 3.
if you know you have the measurements and you can use the shorter buckets and a kvart or a pitcher, which is what a lot of places do, they'll use a pitcher to do it. There are other places that have, and it was put together in Israel, that have a tank on the ceiling. I saw this piece of equipment in Kfar Saba in their building. They have 2 people, one on either side with pitchers, and they start, and then somebody takes this release and moves this great big container that is chock full of water, whoa, onto the body from head to foot. It's an amazing thing to see.
Wow. Are you saying that the back has to get wet?
Yes.
So you have to pour it in such a way that it's going to splash. How far up is it from the pit? Are these 4 inches high?
No, if you use a 2x4, it's 1 3/4 inches that it raises.
Okay, so it's starting to get wet, okay.
Oh,
So
yeah,
it's-
yeah,
so
the flat
it's
size.
It's almost
Yeah,
2 inches.
Yeah, but that's not a whole lot of space. Not when you're pouring. If you pour the water gently and slowly and carefully, you shouldn't get splash anywhere, then you got a problem. But if you're pouring it like that,
That's why you're wearing the
it's going to
boots.
splash up. It's going to get. You can always do it again if you're not sure. The length of time that it takes to refill the buckets is not humongous. And there have been times when we have re-poured the Tisha Kaveh because we weren't sure. There was something, I don't even remember what the reasons. But we refilled, took another couple minutes, no big deal. Pour it again.
And then you remove you dry the table, you remove the boards, you dry the body.
Then we move to drying. Yeah, as soon as that last bucket goes, the first person who poured has gotten rid of their bucket and they've got a sheet ready to cover the body. The moment you're finished. Once the body's covered, it stays covered except as we uncover to dress. Yes?
2 questions. The 9 Kav is in total. For all 3 buckets, including
it's a total of 9 common combined.
3 and 3.
And secondly, we don't dry the body after Tahara, you just leave it.
No. We're going to cover it with a sheet, and that's going to be the start of the drying. We start with the sheet, and then we move to, as we're getting drier, I'll move to a towel, one for the right side, one for the left side. Usually it's enough. Sometimes you need more. Sometimes you have a mortuary that doesn't want you touching their linens. It's a lot of things you may have to deal with, but I've never yet not used mortuary linen to dry the body. Now, if they yell at me, okay, yell at me. What are you going to do? I don't care. I want their cooperation for the future, but I also want them to know, listen, this is a religious function. This is not, that we're here to make a profit off of you guys, to take away your business. I know that's something that Hatzalas run into in many cities, that the fire departments are resistant because they think that Hatzalah wants to take their jobs. No more than Hatzalah wants their job, do we want the mortuary's job. We dry the body, we get it ready for being dressed. We are going to put a wine or vinegar and egg mixture onto the body, various parts. For women, the white of the egg is used, tradition I was taught. For men, the white of the egg is used. For women, the yolk is used. The yolk represents the egg, right? It's all Kabbalistic and halachic stuff that this is how we do. What does it provide? In good old times when all of these things first started up, there were places where you had to bring your deceased and leave them, and then the various Hevra Kadishas or the Goyish mortuaries would come and collect the body from a central location. And you'd walk into a room and there's a bunch of dead people. Who's who? What? So they would take a mixture of egg with vinegar and they would smear it all over the face, and it would dry white or a little yellowish or whatever, and it would have the odor of the vinegar. So the Hevra Kadisha people could come in and follow their nose till they got close to a person that, I think this is it, and then fold the sheet back to see the face a little bit. We have that dried white from the egg and vinegar mixture, and our nose, now we know we got to the Jew. Pick them up, take them out, get them to the Tahara room. To this day, in the Ashkenazic world, not in the Sephardic world, I think we're nuts. We put egg and vinegar on parts of the face, on the eyes, on the cheeks, on the lips. Others put elsewhere. We also put a little bit on the belly button. We put a little bit on the bris. And we have fulfilled that. After the person is in the casket, we're also going to sprinkle some offer from Israel. So it's as if that person, not as if, they are now buried in Israel. When Tchias HaMesim comes, they will be in line to return to Israel faster than those who are not at all buried in contact with Israel. So every Jewish mortuary, and you should all get from them 1 or 2 bags to have in a travel kit if you potentially are going to places that don't get Jewish cases, to have 1 or 2 bags of offer from Israel so that you're able to put it into those caskets. When Mashiach comes, when Tchias HaMesim happens, those in Israel are the first to come back, followed by everybody else. And if you weren't buried with this offer from the Mount of Olives, from Har Zaysim, which is what these bags contain, eventually, I don't know how long Har Zaysim can survive this, having soil taken, sand taken, and sent around the world. Eventually, everybody gets to go back. But one of the things that's described that always sticks in my head, because I don't want to have to do it, is the body will have to roll underground, and those without the offer of Har Zaysim or Mount Olives in them, they are going to have the hardest journey getting back to Israel to be resurrected with Tchias HaMesim. But that's an important thing. We put offer from Israel. Dressing is the next thing. We've got the guy dry, the lady dry.
About the drying. So underneath, it's
Roll
gonna
them.
be wet.
Notice now, we're going to roll the body.
You're gonna roll.
We're going to roll the body.
And they stay on the boards, or what is it?
Well, we have to dry the boards. The boards that we use, where it's just the 3 boards, we take them out and they're completely dry. The table is dried, and we're now working with totally dry surface. In Cleveland, where they have this cross-hatch pattern, they dry the top of it, and that's as far as they can go with the setup that they have. And how the Tafrikim don't get wet is an amazing thing. They don't drop in between the different spaces. At least not the Tahara I participated in. Every community develops its particular way of doing these different steps, but we all at the end of the day are doing the same thing. I've now dried the person. I've put the egg and vinegar solution, which we don't always use the vinegar. I will use white wine that has not turned to vinegar, because I'm not necessarily dealing with a family. If a family insists they want to look at the person, they want to identify them, and they smell the vinegar, they may freak out. It may cause problems. So I have bottles of old wine that I always took and used instead,
Do you
so
bring
that
your
wouldn't
own?
happen.
Do you bring your own? Like, I mean, I've never seen the egg. So, do you ever have the mixture pre-made in a little jar?
No, because I don't know how long it's going to be in between. I don't know what's going to
So you literally have an egg with you,
I will bring an egg, yeah.
and you'll literally have your bottle of white wine.
Well, I always have the wine as part of my traveling kit. There should be a bottle at Harbor Lawn. There should be a bottle in a closet with other supplies that are there. I've left things
Wow.
always there. But we don't know what's going to be in between and what might happen. So, okay, big deal. You bring an egg.
Bring an egg. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, bring an egg and make the mixture as you need it. You'll find a paper cup there. Okay, so we're now ready. We start with the pants. Some people start with the shirt. I was taught to start with the pants, which makes more sense to me than starting with a shirt. Let's cover the low extremities first. That's where tznius should be starting. So we're going to pull the pants on. Which foot gets picked up first? Pick them up both at the same time. We gather it up so that you put the foot in. Same thing on the left side. It's 2 people, one on the right side, one on the left. You're working together as a team. Pull it on. You're not going to get past roughly maybe the mid-thigh before you're going to start to run into, we got to roll the person so we can get it underneath them. And again, same rolling, just for this, only the hip. We don't need the shoulder to come up. You roll just at the hip, and you'll be able to pull the bottom of the pants up to roughly here. You want to get below the rib cage. I know a lot of people sometimes just keep pulling as far as they can, and depending upon the size of the person, because these are all, the one size fits all. There's a certain point over, let's say 225 pounds, somebody, you're going to need a larger size than this. They're going to need to provide an XL. They have a little more length, but they definitely have more for the girth. You get it all the way up, roll right, then roll left to pull up, and then we're going to tie. The waist gets tied to start with. We wrap around 3 times. Very, very straightforward that we will wrap it around 3 times in order to be able to tie the bows. So it would have 3 times around.
And there's 2 people.
And there's two people doing
one
this.
handing off.
Exactly.
Olive bed.
It's not
okay.
one per. I'm doing it myself, but it's really one on each side. Then we're gonna practice doing the bows. Once you have it, you're gonna do bows. In the Chabad world, because of the way we do it, we do 1 bow is on the right side of this twisting, and 2 are on the left. That way, the left side is going to have the shorter piece because we've used more materials to make the bows. We've added one additional. So the left side ends up being shorter just by the way we tied it. Then we move to the ankles. There are ties around the ankles for a man. For a woman, these bows, these ties, go right below the knee. Well, that's strange. Why? Well, very practical. In the day of Rabban Gamliel, when this all starts up, women wore sandals that were laced up the calf to right below the knee. And men laced their sandals at the ankle. Well, okay, we do it ankle and knee. It also gives a visual delineation. Oh, gee, it's a lady. Every minhag we have, there's some practical basis to it that it came because of the times. At any rate, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 3 twists. Aleph, Beis, Gimel. 1, 2, 3, if you don't count in Hebrew. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make the same 3 bows. And the bows are always towards the heart. In the world of Hevra Kadisha that doesn't do 3 bows, they'll make 2. But again, everything is towards the heart. The next piece is going to be the shirt. This is the shirt. The difference between the shirt
And the kittle, how do
and
you
the
know?
kittle
Is that the
is
shirt?
this.
Is that also a shirt?
Well, in this case,
There's a couple sets
these are
here.
2 shirts.
These are 2 shirts I have, okay. There is a kittle here. This might be a sheet. Is this the sheet?
Yes. This is a sheet.
Is this a shirt? Is this a kittle?
This is a kittle.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a
Who can tell me what's the difference between the shirt and the kittle? They're both open in front.
One's longer.
Ah, the kittel has a collar. That's the only difference between them. Kittel has a collar, the shirt does not. And that's the only difference. Plus the fact the kittel will usually be a little bit longer. Not a whole lot, but a little bit longer. But the big difference, the important difference, is that collar. That's how you know the difference between them. Otherwise, you end up with 2 shirts on the person, which not the end of the world, but it's not something we would normally call a kittel. So in order to put this on, there are those who say lay everything on the person. I was taught dress the way you would dress a baby. Well, do you lay the baby's clothing on it before you put its arms in? Or do you hold it up and you put the arm in and the leg in, holding it above them? You don't turn them into a table. So you're going to keep it up in the air and put your arm up from both sides, from the bottom, or you can do it from the top. I find it easier from the bottom, and out through the sleeve, and then switch so that your other hand is coming out from the sleeve down, out the bottom of the shirt. And this will be the same thing for the kittel.
It's the right
Pick
side.
up.
You would do the right side first?
Well, you would do it together.
Together.
I happen to be on the left side, so I'm picking up the left. But otherwise, this is both people, both arms, same time. You pick up the hand and cupping the fingers in your hand so that when you pull down, the tachrichim don't get caught on the fingers. That's more important with the kittel than it is with the shirt because it's unlikely to be a problem with the shirt. But with the shirt, you want to be sure when you put the kittel on that the sleeve stays up on the person as opposed to being pushed down. And then together, you're going to end up taking one person steadying the head, and it doesn't matter, if you're 4 of you, you've got plenty of extra manpower. One person steadies the head and takes their hand and reaches in and out through the front. Lifts the head. And puts it down. Yes.
The pants look like they're sealed at the bottom.
They
Yeah.
are.
Not the sleeves.
Not the sleeves.
The hands should be out.
The hands are meant to be out, yes. And in Europe, I'll talk about Europe in a minute. Remind me. I talk about a set of tachrichim I dealt with from Europe one time. We'll lift up slightly. I'm able to lift a lot because there's no weight here. But normally it's just going to be a little bit. You want to get the shirt down as best you can under the shoulders, probably to about mid-back if you're lucky. Okay, and then put the arm down and roll the hip on the right side first, and the person on that side reaches under and pulls the shirt down. And then rolls the left hip up and pull the shirt down on this side. And do that twice if necessary, 3 times if necessary, so that you get it evenly out. You want to be sure that you don't pull too hard so that the ties stay where they belong on the front. Then we're going to tie at the neck the same thing. We're going to do 3 times around, and then we're going to make 3 bows facing towards the heart. Always towards the heart. And that's all we're going to do is the 3 bows. Then we'll put the kittel on. The kittel goes on the same way. Just a little bit longer. Takes a little bit more effort, but it goes on exactly the same way.
At this point, the face is not covered.
We have the face covered.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you know what? Thank you for reminding me. There's a hood
Okay.
that goes over the head right away. We replace the piece of cloth with a hood.
Before the
Executioner's hood.
Before the
the pants, yeah. Yeah, I apologize. It's been a while since I did one. To me, it's just, it happens. So don't be embarrassed to remind me. I reached a point in doing Tahara that I could do this in my sleep. But I forget sometimes to tell others about, this is the next step. There is a hood. It looks like this, but it's bigger.
It's bigger than it
Bigger and looser. Oh, here it is.
is.
That is the hood. Not that.
Oh, this is the.
That's
This
the
is
hood.
the.
Yeah.
This is the hood. This is the bag that Marcia was referring to that comes with the gartel, the avnet, the belt, and the ankle ties, and the hood. In the business, we call it the executioner's hood. Oops.
So both, that's the girdle and the ankle ties.
This is the gartel and the ankle ties. This is the hood. And it's kind of like an executioner's hood. If you've had the misfortune to ever see anything like that. It has a seam that's sewn because you have to sew it to make it work. And some people put that seam onto the nose area. That's where it is. I think it's nicer when it's the crease on the opposite side. Everybody goes in some way, shape, or form with their head covered like this. This is part of how we are standing before HaKadosh Baruch Hu for that very intimidating personal Yom Kippur. Please.
So when you have this on and you tie here,
Below.
you
No.
you don't cover.
We don't tie
So part
it
of the
down.
neck could be exposed.
Yes.
And does the shirt get tucked into the pants?
Some do, we don't. We don't because the pants are already tied, the shirt is coming on half. So we're not going to cause, again, the potential of causing pain, of tearing the flesh, or scraping skin cells off. Tachrichim, this is cotton, so it's a relatively smooth material, especially it's manufactured to be that way. But the linen, which is preferred, is rough. And the odds are that you're going to scratch some skin cells off. Not intentionally or anything, but it's just the nature of the material is going to cause that to happen. So we do not tuck it in. If we didn't put the shirt on first, which some do, then we don't tuck into the pants that were on and tied. And it's too tight now. Kittel goes on the same way, and now we are at the point of Avne. This is the belt, the gartel.
I just wonder, these are the ones that either go on the man's ankle or on the lady's knee. So that's the girdle, and then these are the two ankle ones. Is that right?
Yeah, about half the length of these. Again, this is at the waist. We're going to do gartel. Gartel, we do 10. We do 13. Yud Gimel. We say the pasuk. We do the pasuk. V'hu rachum, and each word is a twist. V'hu rachum yichaper avon v'lo yashchis v'hirba lashiv apo v'lo yarkol chamaso. One time. It's 13. Now we're going to make the bows. This time I want to be sure. It's still going to be 2 bows on that side. So we're going to have 2 bows on the right side, which now will give us a shorter end. And we'll have a longer end on the left side where there's only 1 bow. So now we have a shin, a daled, and a yud. And that's as we're facing it and able to read. That's what we're going to see. Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to cut up some pieces of sheet or whatever. We'll use these, and we will practice. That we'll practice. One person will hold an arm up, and everybody, and then that person can do it. That's.
Maybe if we put this on, I think myself to get a better idea.
To have a better idea,
of
sure.
how it's supposed to look.
That was my suggestion in my mind.
So we go through.
Well, in this case, go because of where it is. Go through from here.
Okay.
Come out down here.
Lift by the hips, pull this down a little bit.
Don't be afraid to get up and come close.
This first we pull it up on.
Waist, push underneath here.
So this needs to be tied.
Okay, so if everybody can get up.
Yeah, this is worth.
Yeah, let's
Come
go see
closer
the
because you'll see better. Okay, Rabbi, help.
Yeah.
Set of hands. Okay, so no. Take
Take
the
aside.
Okay.
It's going to be Aleph, A, and Gimel. Count in Hebrew, count in English, count whatever language you like. Okay, it doesn't matter. I mean, Hebrew is because, we're Jewish and we do Hebrew, but English works, Swahili works if you know it. It's all good. So to make a bow, you're going to hold it out and tuck underneath. And then through, and pull the end that tightens it.
It's like a slip knot.
It's like I guess you could call it a slip knot, yeah. So, okay. So you want to pull this to tighten it. Hold with your right hand, your right hand hold that. Your left hand, take this and pull the side that tightens this. See this part here? You want to tighten it. So pull that in. Right. And we want it to the heart, so we try to keep it parallel to the heart. Okay, now on your side, make another one. Up. Stop. Put that hand here. Don't lose that. Use this hand to pull that.
Okay.
Tighten it up, parallel to the heart, to the body, to the heart. We did lose one, but that's okay since this is not the real McCoy. Okay, so let's do it again.
I was not an Eagle Scout.
So your right hand controls the end so that we don't lose it. Your
Okay.
left hand pulls the knot tight to the body, parallel to the body.
Okay.
So go ahead and do another one.
Then that's
This is not for the reality, so we can make as many of these as we need until we run out of material.
I don't know what I'm doing.
So push from here underneath a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now you want to take like that.
Come around the other side. There's room.
Going like this, and then like this.
That's it. Tighten it down. Don't lose the end. That's it. Doesn't have to be real tight.
Okay.
Okay, and this is what we're going to be practicing, making these knots, making these bows. Because this is the hardest part of the
And he
whole
said
thing.
we're doing 3 altogether.
We're
one
going to
on
do
that
3
side?
bows all together. We want to end up with the longer piece actually on this side, everywhere except for the belt. Everywhere else we don't want to make the Dalet and the Yud. We just want it on the belt, on the Avnet, on the Gartel.
I imagine we want this to be closed.
This
while
would
we're
be
doing all
closed,
this?
yes.
Okay.
And then we move to the neck. Well, actually, we move to the ankles. Do the same thing on the ankles. The right ankle first, then the left ankle with the shorter pieces. But again, 3 bows with the longer tag end, the longer leftover piece being on the right.
But do you do that at the pants and then the kittle?
Pants everywhere.
But with the on the right. I mean on the left.
Until the gartel with the kittel.
The kittle.
And
So it's the kittle one.
the kittel one is going to be the long end on the left,
Right.
the
But
short
this-
end on the
okay.
right. Everywhere else, the reverse of that.
No, there's a second one.
Yeah. We're gonna. I mean, that's why I want to, end up cutting material from machine, or from if we have enough of these for everybody to get a chance.
Such people who know, because I do not remember.
And then also, can you explain something?
So you do, but yeah, every person is two people doing
You
it.
start the same length and you tie 2 on one side and 1 on the other. You'll end up with longer on the short side.
So let's say you and I are partners. So you can get the Dalet.
Here's the Dalet on the gartel, and here's the Yud. It's not meant to be.
One of the knots creates part of the dome.
Each point has a shin, Yud, and Dalet. There's 3 of them.
Each point has a shin. Everywhere we go, we make a shin.
This is the shin, right?
This is the shin. Yes, not a great shin, but a shin.
Okay, and this is supposed to be a Dalet?
That's correct.
Because it's got a long
Because it comes this way, and here's the Yud.
This is the bottom of the.
We have to use our imagination.
But again, shin, here's the Dalet, and Yud.
Here's the Yud.
This is shin, Yud, Dalet here.
Well, shin Dalet Yud.
Shin, Dalet, Yud, okay. And then shin, Dalet, Yud.
No. The only place where we do it, this is backwards. This should. I wasn't paying attention. This belongs only on the garden, only at the the outside, only the belt around the hip. Everywhere else is just the shin. So we make a point that the shorter end is on his left and the longer end is on his right, with what's left over from making the shin.
A shin here and a shin there.
Correct.
And why is that?
God's made.
Yeah, but why shin and why? Just because the first back on down.
I never pursued that question, so I don't have an answer for you.
And now, is it the top of the shin or the bottom of the
Is this the one that has to be longer?
It's supposed to be long. You can tie it up.
Longer and shorter.
The shin has to be a shin. The shorter piece is left on the left of the shin, and the longer piece of the tag end, the tail end.
Meaning on the right of the
Would be on the right of the shin. Everywhere except
on the
at
right of the shin according to this toe tag.
Her right. His right.
The way you're facing like this.
Right, and then you can set your would be your left. Everything is.
So you have to pull the...
So we always have to refer according to the.
Yeah. Sometimes it does get confusing sometimes.
My case constantly.
No.
Why is it an issue how long the extra high on the right
Because
side?
we don't want to make the shin, we don't want to make the Dalet and the Yud. We don't
want to have the impression you want to avoid a dollar. Therefore, you make one end longer than the other, so it's not confused with the.
Well, one end is going to be longer. It's just a question of which side of the
Oh, I
knot.
see. You want to put on the side opposite what a dollar.
Stop
Right.
twisting it 3 times.
If I did it on the left like this, then
This is like, this
people
will
would say,
cinch
"Oh,
down.
there's a
You can
dollar."
Pull the opposite side.
But I don't want them to see a dollar
This, it'll cinch
until
down.
we're finished.
It's like a hitch. So then, I mean, that's how I understand it. It's under.
In reality,
Not my first.
You kind
a
of have
volunteer
to
for this is going to learn by observing. He's going to come. He's going to be trained. Sort of.
You're going to learn by doing it.
Yeah.
It takes time.
harder.
But we'll have
that's
somebody
why-
standing there
So then they get you more sense.
obstructing things when we
Well,
start.
doing it while
To begin with,
There we go.
I'm not worried.
and that's
about
why
getting
the
out.
beginning areas take so much longer. But as you do it, you get better. You know what you're going to move along. Given somebody who knows what to do. One guy up in Los Angeles that I did umpteen numbers of Tahara with, that the two of us could walk in and sing, look at each other. I know what he's going to do next. He knows what I'm going to do next. And things just move like fun. That's a case where there's no issues, no tubes, no. They've done 25 minutes for which can't solve each other.
But this is more information that I can absorb and oversee. So I'm just kind of letting it flow through, and I'm not going to worry about the
And
fine
that's why I'm
points.
glad that he's videotaping.
Kind of with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take.
It is.
I'm not worrying about how
I
to
didn't learn
execute
this
everything.
overnight. This came with time. Practice.
Good thing is that at least your client is not impatient.
That's true, and they don't.
They don't complain like most Jews.
Can I just check with you that I'm doing
Yes.
this correctly?
Talk about a fright.
I hope you do not get enough experience to be comfortable with it. We should all be so fit. Depends on the age of the child. And children should never be a young person doing the time.
Got it.
Children should be older adults.
Can I just check that I'm doing this correctly? That I understand what you're saying. Just here, and then into here, and it cinches down. Perfect.
And make.
You got it.
And make a little loop. Come on down.
Yeah,
See if
yeah.
it's small.
I mean, no, this is like a knot that I know how to
So
tie.
like this. Come down. Like that.
It's just like a, you just have to hold this part of it a little bit.
Believe it or not, it's the part
You
Yeah,
have to
I
hold
mean,
this
if you
down,
have
and
the
then it
second
cinches.
person, then you have the second person.
Yeah,
while
somebody's
you're doing
holding
it on
this,
side,
stabilizing
somebody's
it,
holding-
and then it
Yeah, when
stays.
you're doing it by yourself.
It's harder when you're doing it by yourself,
Exactly.
right?
So never lose this and then try
It's
it.
not even covered.
Yeah.
By coming
Because now you're getting over the body.
The part that
Okay.
the first loop you
And
made.
that's another thing that I didn't bring up. We avoid as much as possible reaching across the body. It's not covered for them. There are a lot of things that are like, it's not covered. But you know what? No, it's not giving them respect properly.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing this alone.
No.
Doing it alone, it's not a Tahara.
Move the body while you're doing it.
There was somebody who used to do for one of the locations.
And then we want to make sure it's always facing towards the heart.
And he didn't feel good. He would call up
Other way. No. From the top.
more control Tahara, which doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And then you make a second loop.
Preach of comfort.
Yeah. Well, they
Never lose the
eventually came to us and said, "Guys, take us on." And of course we said yes, especially after you told me that story.
Right, that's
Unconscionable. Okay.
There's a kind of sort of maybe sort of kind of shin.
But would it be appropriate to volunteer as kind of a backup person without having to worry about having all the skills to show up?
Absolutely.
So I can show up and still be part of the team without necessarily being fully trained.
Yeah,
Already
absolutely.
begin to get the
Because
body.
it's probably
Because you're
gonna-
never going to be trained until
Yeah,
you
right.
participate
Once
in
you get the
doing it.
muscle memory.
Because of how to do the knots and everything like that, I'm not going to worry about having to learn it. Because if I learn it here, I'm going to forget it by the time I have a chance to
He's
learn
been
it.
videotaping it, So
Yeah.
it's going to be, hopefully, it'll be put out and available for people.
And I'm sure there's YouTube things about how to do
There's
it.
YouTube. I've never looked for them, but I can't imagine that there isn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Today with YouTube, it's so easy to get. There are, on the OU website, there's a link to doing Tahara. On a couple of other sites, there are links to a full Tahara. One is on an actual person, and camera angles are very, very careful that you never see the person. But you do see things like this. It's all findable. All that comes down to practice.
I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Total
Well,
practice.
in realness, I would probably just
yeah.
come as a body to help, and then I'll learn as needed.
Right, and there are things, other than the knots, the rest of it is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Rolling the body, lifting, dressing.
And you need somebody to say Tehillim basically from start to finish.
Tehillim is the shomer, and that's a separate thing.
Right. So
Whoever's being the shomer should be being the shomer and not doing the tahara. If necessary, you make them part of it.
that's supposed to happen between the time of when and to
Between the
when.
time the person passes until the funeral.
So you're
That's the
talking.
best of all worlds.
So it could be 48 hours or more.
Could be 4 or 5 days, depending upon what's
Typically, you have like 6 or 7 people who are.
That's the best. Again, in the best of all worlds. Everything goes well. We just ran through crazy weekends where you had Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos and Sunday. Shabbos and Sunday was Rosh Hashanah. We had a 3-day weekend. And then, of course, there was Labor Day, and that extended. I mean, it was like insane. So that a funeral couldn't even happen for 4 or 5 days because you couldn't get the death certificate. Oh, now it's Rosh Hashanah. We can't do Tahara. We can't do that. It's like sometimes you run into situations.
As a practical matter, did the Tehillim get said for that 4 or 5 days, or do we just
If
dispense
there
with
are
it?
people available, if it's possible.
Does that ever happen?
Mount
I
Sinai,
mean, is it very rare for it to happen
where it's 4 or 5 days?
No, when the Tehillim actually gets done during those 4 or 5 days. I mean,
No, it happens.
So
With normal time frames. But when you run into, it's Rosh Hashanah, it's Sukkot, and nobody's able to be there, and there's no shul that's near to the mortuary for somebody to be able to take a break and walk to shul to daven and then come back. So now, unfortunately, there's no shmirah at all. It's just physically not possible. Rare, but things happen. We live with what we have to live with. So, you have to have enough people to make
but typically a volunteer would be sent to Tehillim for maybe 4 or 5 hours on a shift.
That's the best way to do it, because then nobody gets burned out.
But 4 or 5 hours is not
when
a
somebody's being buried somewhere else, like back east.
For shipping?
You can call it that, okay, for shipping.
That's what it is.
So is it done here or is it done?
It really depends upon the mortuary at the other end.
At the other
Most want to have it done before shipping so they can just take the body, put it in the casket, go straight to the cemetery,
That probably makes sense.
do a chick-chock. But again, it depends. Sometimes there's going to be a day or two delay there. Israel always wants Tahara done here.
Done here. And they usually talk to each other.
The mortuaries do, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why it was
And then
never
there are,
involved in
if you're doing something like that, you contact the end mortuary and let them make the arrangements here. Because there are places that have special discounts and whatever for doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, whatever
Well,
discount they get, they charge you for at the other end.
No, it can amount to a significant amount of dollars. Depends on what city.
We need to be in touch with the Hevra Kadisha in LA to set up that we can go and accompany them and actually help, learn, and participate. And without that, I mean, I feel.
I don't think I can walk into this
I will give
tomorrow.
you David Vitalis' number
Right.
for my guys because we go all over the place. And if we're coming out, if we get one that's at like Malino and Silverman, till guess that's closer to go to them. You know, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's about the same. She have to go up at 6:05. I think. Yeah, maybe there isn't a difference. But we get an occasional one in Temecula.
Right. So if you could introduce me
Yes.
to Dr. Towers.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
And he also organizes for the men's group for the men and women's group
Mostly
for the women.
mostly for the men. The other places, most of them, they have their individual groups for the women. So it becomes a little tougher. Mount Sinai, I can definitely get you set up for Mount Sinai because we are who gets called for Mount Sinai for women and men.
Yeah, so I've got to put Natalie in charge, in touch with that person that way, because we really, unless we go and do it.
Oh yeah, no, there's
No, it's a very different experience with
Thank you.
Yeah. So after this, and then you have a
Very welcome.
So then the
Fiscal and mitzvah.
So then you have the Sovev after.
Sovev is last, and
Right.
we do
The Sovev
Yud
is
Gimel.
the sheet.
The Sovev. I'm sorry, is the sheet. We're going to wrap the body in sheet. The Chabad wraps the body with the sheet triangular.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Others just do it as a straight sheet.
So as
It doesn't
either
matter
a
which.
diamond or
Yeah, and either way, they're both
So
kosher.
that's after the shirt, after the kittel.
Right. There's two ways
And then
to
a
do
tallis for a man, a
it.
puzzle
Tallis for a man is put on.
after the Sovev.
No,
Or before the
well,
Sovev.
should be against it.
The
If you're shipping to Israel, don't even bother.
Oh.
No tallis. They're going to take the tallis and throw it away.
Because?
They'll bury it separately because we put a tallis on to add an extra layer of kedusha to the person being buried here in Israel.
You don't need it.
You don't need it. They're being buried in the Holy Land.
And we
That's why they're
apostle the
holy.
tallis.
We apostle the tallis.
Cut off one of the
And
corners.
yeah, depending upon which minhag you want to follow, there's a minhag where you take the tzitzis, tie them into a slip knot that you can pull apart when it's amazing. The guy can stand up and pull it out, and he's got a kosher tallis on. Or you can do it the way we do it, where we cut off one corner.
Yeah, well,
and
a
put
slip
it
knot
in.
wouldn't make it puzzle.
If I tie a knot, like that, am I wearing kosher tzitzis?
Yes.
With this like that?
Yes.
Okay,
As long as you
different
have it, I
opinion.
think so. As long as you have a certain length, you're okay.
Different opinion.
Yeah.
So cut them off. Chabad, we cut them off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, I mean, I would think
There are others that take it.
No, it's not going to.
There are others that take it and open up the
Tallis
a
goes before the
pocket.
shirt in? Or?
No.
No, just not,
Yeah, because it's an out.
no tallis.
It's not a.
It's full size tallis.
Right, but Tallis, I mean, the shirt and kittel, then Tallis?
Yes.
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 When you're doing the shin, is it necessary to do like this? Mine came out like I did. Like the middle one came out first, and then I did the
As long
right
as it
and
looks
then-
like a shin.
As long as it looks like a shin. Doesn't
And
necessarily
the
have to be
longer
like,
end, in
not like
that
if you're
case,
writing
is
a
on the
Torah,
right.
right? Where you absolutely have to. Okay. Because that's good. Because otherwise there's a lot of
It's not-
pasul time here.
It's not show and tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And her right. And
The
her
only
right.
prize is when after
Okay, very good.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Say thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your expert advice and knowledge. And
Look me up when your shift gets here. And we'll share it about it.
travel safely back to Arizona.
Actually,
Nevada.
well, Nevada's a hot spot.
He can reach out to you. You'll have a much better, I think you're going to be more effective at connecting with people in your community than even though they'll be on a general list.
Maurice Lamb.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure so you know who he was.
I'm not sure how to do this, but put me on the list.
Yes.
I can't guarantee I can. I have to
Nobody can guarantee
every
anything.
time.
No, never, no guarantee.
Yeah, put me on
But
the
if
list.
we have
After
30
you
people,
left the JD.
none of us can guarantee there's going to be some guy that can step in.
Instead of 9 with water adults done something in mikvah. And Moshe says,
You are, I'm not.
don't use a mikvah. Yeah, but the Boston Rebbe says that you can use it.
So,
I mean, there's a lot of.
So I'm going to give Ron your name, and you are now on Ron.
You
wrote it on the
You
list.
do 100 towers.
Yes,
Yes, I did.
I think he was
I know. Yiddish.
yeah. So you're a leader.
The foot Tahara is right. Yeah, and then
I just want to give a very big Yasher Koach and thank you to Bruce and his wife Sandy for coming out, spending Shabbos with us, and to Marsha, who really spearheaded this whole get-together for this whole weekend. And the next step, I know I'm feeling incredibly unprepared to do a Tahara.
Yes.
As unprepared as one can imagine. More prepared than I was at 10 o'clock this morning, but still very unprepared. And the next step is I'm going to be reaching out to the different Hevras in Los Angeles to work out that few of us can go when we can to observe, participate, help, and that way we can actually start to do it. And that way when there is a need here, we will actually get to the point where we can do it with confidence that we're giving the proper kavod hameis, the proper honor to the deceased, and know that we're doing it properly and partake of this great mitzvah. Okay, so that really needs to be, I think for myself, I think for all of us, that needs to be the next step. Also, Ron, right? Ron has been spearheading about Shmira, and that's something also that would be very good for us to sign up for. That when there is a need for Shmira, that we can, everyone has their schedules, but if we have a large enough pool of people who are potentially able to do that, so then we will be able to cover the Shmira needs and take care of that.
And Rabbi Senior, one thought I had, and I talked to already Bruce about this, but if there's a need in the community and Bruce is available, we have a push bed where we could bring him out, because as helpful as it is to watch in other places, it's really good to see it in the places where we'll be doing it locally.
Right.
So that's the next. I also want to hope that we can, and then we're not going to pack 70 people into the room, but if we could get 5, to work with him, that would be a real amazing thing.
Yeah, that would be the gold standard. Yes.
What I mean is, no, that did not come out right.
Here's the dollar on the garter, and here's the yud. It's not meant to be.
One of the knots creates part of the dome.
Each point has a shin, yud, and dollar. There's 3 of them.
Each point has a shin. Everywhere we go, we make a shin.
This is the shin, right?
This is the shin. Yes. Not a great shin, but a shin.
Okay, and this is supposed to be a dollar?
That's correct.
Because it's got a long
Because it comes this way. And here's the yud.
This is the bottom of the.
We have to use our imagination.
But again, shin, here's the dollar, and
here's the yud.
This is shin, yud, dollar here.
Well, shin, dollar, yud.
Shin, dollar, yud, okay. And then shin, dollar, yud.
No. The only place where we do it, this is backwards. This should, I wasn't paying attention. This belonged only on the garden. Only at the time, the outside. Only the belt around the hip. Everywhere else is just the shin. So we make a point that the shorter end is on his left and the longer end is on his right, with what's left over from making the shin.
A shin here and a shin there.
Correct.
And why is that?
God's making.
Yeah, but why shin and why? Just because the first back.
No. I never pursued that question, so I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah. Okay. And now,
Is this the one that has to be longer?
It's supposed to be longer. You can tie it up.
Longer and shorter.
The shin has to be a shin. The shorter piece is left on the left of the shin, and the longer piece of the tag end, the tail end.
Meaning on the right of the
Would be on the right of the shin. Everywhere
except
on the right of the shin, according to this toe tag.
Her right. His right.
The way you're facing like this.
Right, and then you can set
It would be your left.
Tower, right.
Everything is.
So you have to pull the.
So we always have to refer according to the step.
Yeah. And sometimes it does get confusing sometimes.
My case constantly.
No.
Why is it an issue how long the extra high on the right
Because
side?
we don't want to make the shin, we don't want to make the dollar in the yud. We don't want to have the
pressure
impression.
to avoid a dollar. Therefore, you make one longer than the other, so it's not confused with the.
Start again.
Well, one end is going to be
Twist it
longer.
around.
It's just a question of which side of the
Oh, I
knot.
see. You want to put on the side opposite what a dollar.
Under.
Stop
Right.
twisting it 3 times.
If I did it on the left like this, then
This is like this
people
will
would
cinch
say, "Oh,
down.
there's a
If you
dollar."
pull the opposite side.
But I don't want them to see a dollar
This it'll cinch
until
down.
we're
It's
finished.
like a hitch.
Got it.
So then, I mean that's how I understand it. Under.
In reality,
That was not my first
You
a
kind of have
volunteer
to
for this is going to learn by observing. He's going to come. He's going to be trained. Sort of.
You're going to learn by doing it.
Yeah.
It takes time.
It's harder.
But we'll have
that's
somebody
why-
standing there
So then they get you more sense.
starting things when we
Well,
start.
doing it while you're doing it. I'm not worried.
And that's
about
why
getting
the
out.
beginning always takes so much longer. But as you do it, you get better. You know what you get to move along. Given somebody who knows what to do. There's one guy up in Los Angeles that I do umpteen numbers of Tahara
This
with,
two
that the two of us can walk in and
one part.
the same look at each other. I know what he's going to do next. He knows what I'm going to do next. And things just move like fun. That's a case where there's no issues, no tubes, no. They've done 25 minutes.
But this is more information that I can absorb and understand. So I'm just kind of letting it flow through, and I'm not going to worry about the
And
fine
that's why
points.
I'm videotaping.
Kind of with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot to take.
It is. It is.
I'm not worrying about how
I
to
didn't learn
execute
this
everything.
overnight. This came with time. Practice.
Good thing is that at least your client is not impatient.
That's true, and they don't.
They don't complain like most Jews.
I just check with you that I'm doing this
Yes.
correctly.
Talk about a fright.
I hope you do not get enough experience to be comfortable with it. We should all be self-effort. Depends on the age of the child. And children should never be a young person doing the job.
Got it.
Children should be older adults.
Can I just check that I'm doing this correctly? That I understand what you're saying. Just here, and then into here, and it cinches down.
And make,
You got it.
and make a little loop. Come on down,
Yeah,
see if
yeah.
it's small.
I mean, no, this is like a knot that I know how to
So
tie.
like this, come down, like that.
It's just like a, you just have to hold this part of it a little bit.
Believe it or not, it's the part
You
Yeah,
have to
I
hold
mean, if
this
you
down,
have
and
the
then it
second
cinches,
person,
and
then you have the second person.
Yeah,
while
somebody's
you're doing
holding
the knot
this
on
and
this side,
stabilizing
somebody's
it,
holding-
and then it
Yeah, when
stays.
you're doing it by yourself.
Okay?
It's harder when you're doing it by
Yes,
yourself,
exactly.
right?
So, never lose this and then try
It's
it.
not even covered.
Yeah.
By coming to
Now you're getting over the body.
Yeah.
the part that,
Okay.
the first loop you
I
made.
mean, that's another thing that I didn't bring up. We avoid as much as possible reaching across the body. It's not covered for them. There are a lot of things that are like, it's not covered. But you know what? No, it's not giving them respect properly.
Right.
Yeah, you wouldn't be doing this alone.
No.
Doing it alone, it's not a Tahara.
You can't move the body while you're doing it.
There was somebody who used to do for one of the locations.
And then we want to make sure it's always facing towards the heart.
And he didn't feel good. He would call up the
Other way. No. From the top.
Control Tahara, which doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And then you make a second
What a
loop.
breach of confidence.
Reaching
Yeah.
in through it.
Well, they
Never lose that.
eventually came to us and said, "Would you guys take us on?" And of course we said yes, especially after he told me that story.
Right, that's
Unconscionable. Okay.
There's a kind of sort of maybe sort of kind of shin.
But would it be appropriate to volunteer as kind of a backup person without having to worry about having all the skills to show up?
Absolutely.
So I can show up and still be part of the team without necessarily being fully trained.
Yeah. Yeah,
already
absolutely.
begin to get the
It's
mind.
probably
Because you're
gonna-
never going to be
Once you
trained
get-
until
Yeah,
you
right.
participate
Once
in
you
doing
get
it.
the
in terms of how to do the knots and everything like that, I'm not going to worry about having to learn it, because if I learn it here, I'm going to forget it by the time I have a chance to
He's
learn
been
it.
videotaping it, so it's going to be, hopefully, it'll be put out and available for people.
And I'm sure there's YouTube things about how to do
There's
it.
YouTube. I've never looked for them, but I can't imagine that there isn't.
Right.
Today with YouTube, it's so easy to get. There are, on the OU website, there's a link to doing Tahara. On a couple of other sites, there are links to a full Tahara. One is on an actual person, and the camera angles are very, very careful that you never see the person. But you do see things like this. It's all findable. All that comes down to practice.
I don't have the time.
Yeah,
Total
well,
practice.
in realness, I would probably just come as a body to help, and then I'll learn as needed.
Right, and there are things other than the knots. The rest of it is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Rolling the body, lifting, dressing.
And you need somebody to say Tehillim basically from start to finish.
Tehillim is the shomer, and that's a separate thing.
Right.
Whoever's being the shomer should be being the shomer and not doing the tahara. If necessary, yeah, you make them part of it.
That's supposed to happen between the time of when and to
Between the
when.
time the person passes until the funeral.
So you're
That's the
talking,
best of all worlds.
so it could be 48 hours or more.
Could be 4 or 5 days, depending upon what's
Typically, you have like 6 or 7 people who are.
That's the best. Again, in the best of all worlds. Everything goes well. We just ran through crazy weekends where you had Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos and Sunday. Shabbos and Sunday was Rosh Hashanah. We had a 3-day weekend. And then, of course, there was Labor Day, and that extended. I mean, it was like insane. So that a funeral couldn't even happen for 4 or 5 days because you couldn't get the death certificate. Oh, now it's Rosh Hashanah. We can't do the Tahara. We can't do that. It's like sometimes you run into situations.
As a practical matter, did the Tehillim get said for that 4 or 5 days, or do we just
If
dispense
there
with
are
it?
people available, if it's possible.
Does that ever happen?
Mount
I
Sinai,
mean, is it very rare for it to happen
where it's 4 or 5 days?
No, when the Tehillim actually gets done during those 4 or 5 days. I mean,
No, it happens
So
with normal time frames. But when you run into it's Rosh Hashanah, it's Sukkot, and nobody's able to be there, and there's no shul that's near to the mortuary for somebody to be able to take a break and walk to shul to daven and then come back. So now, unfortunately, there's no shmirah at all. It's just physically not possible. Rare, but things happen. We live with what we have to live with. So, you have to have enough people to make
but typically a volunteer would be saying Tehillim for maybe 4 or 5 hours on a shift.
That's the best way to do it, because then nobody gets burned out.
But 4 or 5 hours is not
when
a
somebody's being buried somewhere else, like back east.
For shipping?
You can call it that, okay, for shipping.
That's what it is.
So is it done here or is it done?
It really depends upon the mortuary at the other end.
At the other
Most want to have it done before shipping so they can just take the body, put it in the casket, go straight to the cemetery,
That probably makes sense.
do a chick-chon. But again, it depends. Sometimes there's going to be a day or two delay there. Israel always wants Tahara done here.
Done here. And they usually talk to each other.
The mortuaries do, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why it was
And then
never
there are,
involved.
if you're doing something like that, you contact the end mortuary and let them make the arrangements here. Because there are places that have special discounts or whatever for doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, whatever
Well,
discount they get, they charge you for at the other end.
No, it can amount to a significant amount of dollars. Depends on what city.
So if you're going to do this, we need to be in touch with the Hevra Kadisha in LA to set up that we can go and accompany them and actually help, learn, and participate. And without that, I mean, I feel.
I don't think I can walk into this tomorrow.
I give you David Vitalis' number for my guys because we go all over the place. And if we're coming out, if we get one that's at like Malino and Silverman, till I guess that's closer to go to them. You know, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's about the same. So you have to go up at 6:05. I think maybe it isn't a difference. But we get an occasional one in Temecula.
Right. So if you could introduce me,
yes,
to David Towers.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
And he also organizes for the men's group for the men and women's group
Mostly
for the women.
mostly for the men. The other places, most of them, they have their individual groups for the women. So it becomes a little tougher. Mount Sinai, I can definitely get you set up for Mount Sinai because we are who gets called for Mount Sinai for women and men.
Yeah, so I've got to put Natalie in charge, in touch with that person that way, because we really, unless we go and do it.
Oh yeah, no,
it's a very different experience with
Thank you.
Yeah. So after this, and then you have a
very welcome.
So then
Fiscal mitzvah.
So then you have the Sovev after.
Sovev is last, and
Right.
we do
the Sovev is
Gimel.
the sheet.
The Sovev. I'm sorry. The sheet. We're going to wrap the body in sheet. The Chabad wraps the body with the sheet triangular.
Right.
Okay. Others just do it as a straight sheet.
So as
it doesn't matter which.
Diamond or
and either way, they're both kosher.
So that's after the shirt, after the kittel.
Right. There's two ways
and then
to do
a tallis for a man, a puzzle
tallis for a man is put on.
After the Sovev.
No,
Or before the
well,
Sovev.
should be against it. If you're shipping to Israel, don't even bother. No tallis. They're going to take the tallis and throw it away. They'll bury it separately because we put a tallis on to add an extra layer of kedusha to the person being buried here in Israel.
You don't need it.
You don't need it. They're being buried in the Holy Land.
And we passel the tallis.
We passel the tallis.
Cut off one of the corners.
Yeah, depending upon which minhag you want to follow. There's a minhag where you take the tzitzis, tie them into a slip knot that you can pull apart when it's amazing. The guy can stand up and pull it out, and he's got a kosher tallis on. Or you can do it the way we do it, where we cut off one corner.
Yeah, well, a slip knot wouldn't make it puzzle.
If I tie a knot. Like that? Am I wearing kosher tzitzis?
Yes.
With this like that?
Yes.
Okay,
As long as you
different
have
opinion.
I think so. As long as you have a certain length, you're okay.
Different opinion.
Yeah.
So cut them off. Chabad, we cut them off.
Yeah.
To me, I mean, I would think
there are others that take it.
There
There are others that take it and open up the
Tallis goes
pocket.
before the shirt in? Or?
No.
No, just not,
Yeah, because it's an outright.
no tallis.
It's not a katan.
It's full size tallis.
Right, but tallis, shirt and kittel, then tallis?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
When you're doing the shin, is it necessary to do like this? Mine came out like I did. Like the middle one came out first, and then I did the
As long
right
as it
and
looks
then-
like a shin.
As long as it looks like a shin. Doesn't
And
necessarily
the
have to be
longer
like,
end, in
not like
that
if you're
case,
writing
is
a
on the
Torah,
right.
right? Where you absolutely have to. Okay. Because that's good. Because otherwise, a lot of
not-
full time.
It's not show and tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And her right. And
The
her
only
right.
prize is when that's
Okay, very good.
Let me interrupt for a minute. Say thank you so much. We appreciate your time and your expert advice and knowledge. And
Look me up when your shift gets here. And we'll share it about it.
travel safely back to Arizona.
Actually,
Nevada.
Bunch of different.
well, Nevada's a hot spot.
He can reach out to you. You'll have a much better, I think you're going to be more effective at connecting with people in your community, even though they'll be on a general list.
Maurice Lamb.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to come around so you know who he was.
I'm not sure how to do this, but put me on the list.
Yes.
I can't guarantee I can.
Nobody can guarantee anything.
No,
No guarantee.
Yeah, put me on
But
the
if
list.
you have
After you left the Jake.
nobody can guarantee there should be some guy that can step in.
Instead of having water adults, going to the
Look like you could be brothers.
Moshe says,
Yeah, he wants to ask
You are obnoxious.
yeah,
Quite
but I mean, the Boston already says,
So,
I mean, there's a lot of,
So I'm going to give Ron your name, and you are now on Ron's
did one, and that might have been, and I said, that's
You wrote it on the
You
list.
do 100 towers, then
Yes,
you
that's
know,
right.
Well,
I think he was
I know, Yiddish.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you're a leader. And
He was at the
Yeah, and then
I just want to give a very big yashikoach and thank you to Bruce and his wife Sandy for coming out, spending Shabbos with us, and to Marsha, who really was spearheaded this whole get together for this whole weekend. And the next step, I know I'm feeling incredibly unprepared to do a Tahara.
Yes.
As unprepared as one can imagine, more prepared than I was at 10 o'clock this morning, but still very unprepared. And the next step is I'm going to be reaching out to the different Hevras in Los Angeles to work out that few of us can go when we can to observe, participate, help, and that way we can actually start to do it. And that way when there is a need here, we will actually get to the point where we can do it with confidence that we're giving the proper kavod hameis, the proper honor to the deceased, and know that we're doing it properly and partake of this great mitzvah. Okay, so that really needs to be, I think for myself, I think for all of us, that needs to be the next step. Also, Ron, right? Ron is been spearheading about Shmira, and that's something also that'd be very good for us to sign up for. That when there is a need for Shmira, that we can, everyone has their schedules, but if we have a large enough pool of people who are potentially able to do that, so then we will be able to cover the Shmira needs and take care of that.
And Rabbi Senior, one thought I had, and I talked to already Bruce about this, but if there's a need in the community and Bruce is available, we have a push deck where we could bring him out, because as helpful as it is to watch in other places, it's really good to see it in the places where we'll be doing it locally.
Right.
So that's the next. I also want to hope that we can, and then we're not going to pack 70 people into the room, but if we could get 5, to work with him, that would be a real amazing thing.
Yeah, that would be the gold standard. Yes.
What I mean is, no, that did not come out right. That's what I said.